Chapter 1027. The Origin Source Energy. Longao was almost certain that Long Tian, Jin Tian, and the primordial divine dragon were all existences that were infinitely close to the peak of the martial Tao. These super powerhouses were only one step away from the origin source energy. In order to break through the peak of the martial Tao, one had to fuse with the origin source energy. This was also why the heavenly axiom had to guard the origin source energy. No matter who it was, the heavenly axiom would kill anyone who dared to absorb the origin source energy. It was just one step, and no one could do it. As long as the heavenly axiom was not destroyed, no one could absorb the origin source energy and step into the peak of the martial Tao. Longao, I believe you should already know what the last step I'm talking about is. Senior Jin Tian, since you clearly know, why don't you find an opportunity to absorb the origin source energy and step into the peak of the martial Tao before fighting the heavenly axiom? Longao really couldn't figure it out. Whether it was Long Tian back then or Jin Tian now, they were a little too confident. The result of their confidence was that they were destroyed by the heavenly axiom. This matter ends here. I believe you already know the secret of the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda. He nodded. Things had already come to this point. If he still didn't know, he would be a little silly. The secret of the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda was the murals. His soul would pass through and bring him into the murals to see the so-called Jin Tian. Longao, I will now impart to you the supreme sword Tao. As long as you follow my sword Tao, you will become a super powerhouse in less than 100 years. At that time, as long as you fuse with the origin source energy, you will be able to step into the peak of the martial Tao. At that time, I only have one request, and that is to help me defeat the heavenly axiom. Inherit Jin Tian's sword Tao? Longao had almost guessed Jin Tian's identity. If there were no surprises, Jin Tian should be the old ancestor of the sword sect. It was the same reason that Long Tian was the old ancestor of the Long family. Countless people would want to inherit the sword Tao from such a super powerhouse. However, Longao nodded and then shook his head. You're not willing? Senior Jin Tian, I can guarantee that as long as I, Longao, can step into the peak of the martial Tao, I will definitely defeat the heavenly axiom. After pausing for a moment, Longao continued, but I can't accept your sword Tao inheritance. He was rejected. Jin Tian was dumbfounded. He had never expected the young man in front of him to reject his sword principal inheritance. Longao, do you know what it means to inherit my sword Tao legacy? Longao was not a fool. How could he not know? Senior Jin Tian, I've already remembered everything you've said. Jin Tian seemed to be very satisfied. He smiled and said, Longao, it has been 7 days. It is time for you to leave. When you get out, give my sword to Feng Cheng. Murong Guena, the sword sect master. Longao took the sword and said, no problem. Longao wanted to hide this matter completely. However, Jin Tian wanted to give the sword to the sword sect master. Wouldn't that be telling the sword sect that he had entered the mural and met the old ancestor of the sword sect, Jin Tian? He felt helpless. Longao, you can leave now. Longao nodded. He did not want to stay any longer. He did not know why, but he felt that Jin Tian was not what he appeared to be. Moreover, he did not want to become someone's puppet. He could not do it with Jin Tian, and he could not do it with Jin Tian now. Looking at the disappearing figure, Jin Tian's lips curled into a sneer. It was a sneer. It was a sneer. It was a sneer. If Longao was here, he would know what was going on. Longao, Long family, I, Jin Tian, will not fall. One day, I will step on your corpses and reach the peak of martial arts. Heaven Tao? Ha 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 ha. At this moment, Jin Tian laughed crazily. The entire space suddenly disappeared. Longao returned to the room. The mural that was there just now had disappeared. Danger? Is this the so-called danger? Longao was depressed. Long Fu and Xiling had said that the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda was extremely dangerous. However, he did not find out what was so dangerous about it. P.S. The 5th chapter has been delivered. Xiaoju, go and rest. The remaining 5 chapters will be updated tomorrow. I hope everyone can vote. Chapter 1028. On the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda. Longao stood quietly in the room, looking around. Hiss, hiss, hiss. At this moment, a strange sound was heard in the room. It sounded particularly harsh. Longao was startled. He felt a pair of eyes staring at him from behind, but he couldn't see anything when he turned around. Longao, get out of here quickly. Longao's heart skipped a beat when he heard Xiling's anxious voice. Xiling's strength and arrogance were obvious. Even Xiling was afraid of him. It was obvious what had happened. Longao wanted to find out what other secrets there were on the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda other than the murals. However, he didn't want to be one of the dead souls on the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda. He turned around and prepared to leave the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda. Boom! There was a loud noise. Before Longao could leave, there was a rumbling sound. The sound of thunder and lightning was heard. A terrifying thunder and lightning sword chi directly struck down and struck towards Longao. They looked at each other coldly. Longao didn't dodge at all. He also wanted to see how far his sword principle had reached. He struck out with his god-killing sword. Sword chi of 100 feet shot out and collided with the sword chi of thunder and lightning. The sword chi collided with a thunderous sound. Puff. Longao was still injured by the sword chi of thunder and lightning. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward like a kite with a broken string. He fell heavily to the ground. Longao didn't dare to be careless. He turned over and jumped up from the ground. The sword chi of thunder and lightning continued to attack wildly. Longao used teleportation to dodge the sword chi of thunder and lightning. However, the whole room was gradually filled with sword chi of thunder and lightning. Even teleportation was useless. At this moment, Longao finally knew what danger Long Fu and Xiling were talking about. The secret of the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda was in the murals. Longao knew very well that not everyone could enter the murals on the 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda. The lightning sword chi was extremely terrifying. Longao was helpless because it was impossible for him to leave the 9th floor of the pagoda even if he wanted to. Put yourself in a desperate situation and fight to survive. Hearing Xiling's words, Longao was very curious. He didn't know what Xiling meant. Could it be that he was going to be struck to death by the thunder sword chi? Was this the only way to survive? Xiling, what do you mean? Longao, if you want to leave this place safely, then use yourself as the sword energy and forcefully collide with the lightning sword energy. My grass. Cursing in his heart, Longao realized that his guess was right. Xiling's intention was very simple. He wanted Longao to collide with the lightning sword chi. The probability of him being struck to death was too high. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely not do such a thing. After all, who in the world would throw away their lives for nothing? Longao was different. If it were in the past, he wouldn't have chosen to believe Xiling. However, at this moment, there was no need for Xiling to deceive him. With his body as the sword chi, Longao let out a loud roar and shot toward the lightning sword chi. Longao transformed into a 300-meter-long sword energy and collided with the lightning sword energy. The rumbling sound of thunder was constantly heard and resounded throughout the entire 9th floor of the Sword Pagoda. If someone were here, they would definitely curse Longao for being stupid. He was simply courting death. The moment Longao's transformed sword energy collided with the lightning sword energy, he disappeared. Longao didn't know where he was. It was pitch black all around and he couldn't move. However, at this moment, Longao was pleasantly surprised. He immediately entered the state of sword principle and began to multiply his sword energy, Thunderbolt 36 styles, and Emperor Dragon's 9 kills. Outside the Sword Pagoda, time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Lu Chongqing's face was extremely gloomy because he had already guessed that Longao must have received help from the master for being able to stay in the Sword Pagoda for such a long time. Otherwise, with Longao's strength, how could it be possible? Black Wolf, no matter what your relationship with the master is, I will kill you. It had been a month since Black Wolf entered the Sword Pagoda. The news had spread throughout the sword sect. Anyone who received the news was shocked. With Black Wolf's strength, he wasn't qualified to enter the Sword Pagoda. Now that he had forced his way in, according to all the calculations, Black Wolf wouldn't even last 2 hours in the Sword Pagoda. But what was the result? An entire month. What did that mean? The rules of the Sword Pagoda were there. For countless years, no one had been able to break this rule except for Longao. It was precisely because of this. Everyone began to look forward to Longao's appearance. They began to gather around the Sword Pagoda. Many people wanted to know if Black Wolf would be able to come out or be obliterated by the Sword Pagoda. More and more people gathered around the Sword Pagoda. Opposite the Sword Pagoda, on the peak of the mountain, Yixin didn't succeed in his enlightenment this time. He was somewhat dissatisfied. After all, every epiphany was something that could only be encountered by chance. If he didn't make a breakthrough this time, who knew when the next epiphany would be? Elder Yixin, there's no need to be disappointed. This epiphany will be of great help to your cultivation. According to my senses, if there are no accidents, you will be able to break through the final bottleneck in at most 100 years. Upon hearing the master's words, Yixin was delighted. Although 100 years was a little too long for a warrior, Yixin knew very well that if he could really break through the final bottleneck and become a master within 100 years, it would be very worthwhile. After taking a deep breath, Yixin didn't continue to dwell on this issue. Just as the master had said, although he didn't make a breakthrough this time, it would be of great help to his cultivation. Master, Longao has been in the Sword Pagoda for an entire month. I don't know what's the situation. Why don't I go in and take a look? At this point, even Yixin and Muronguena were somewhat expectant. They didn't know if Longao had obtained an opportunity. Muronguena waved his hand and said, I've already said that opportunities can only be encountered by chance. For so many years, no one has obtained an opportunity other than the old ancestor sword demon. Even you and I back then. Longao entered the 9th level of the Sword Pagoda and didn't come out for an entire month. I can almost say that Longao didn't obtain an opportunity from the old ancestor. Yixin nodded and agreed with the master's words. He said, if that's the case, Longao will be attacked by the lightning sword aura. It's really unknown whether he can come out or not. In fact, what Yixin wanted to say was that Longao was probably doomed on the 9th level of the Sword Pagoda. However, he didn't say it in the end. Muronguena didn't say anything. No one knew what he was thinking. However, Muronguena and Yixin didn't leave the mountain peak. Instead, they looked at the Sword Pagoda opposite them. P.S. Here's the 6th chapter. Everyone votes. Then, the 3 Xiang brothers took 3 steps back. In a short while, the surroundings were filled with people. These were the disciples of the Sword Sect who had entered the Sword Pagoda to cultivate. Many people already knew about Black Wolf. Because of this, everyone was speculating about Black Wolf's identity. Also, Black Wolf was only a Saiyan Great Sovereign. How could he enter the Sword Pagoda and stay there for a whole month? Fire Beacon and Longao stood face to face. So calm? Looking at the other party's indifferent expression, Fire Beacon didn't know why, but he suddenly had a bad premonition. The more Black Wolf acted like this, the more uncertain Fire Beacon was. Could it be that Black Wolf had a trump card? Black Wolf's situation was obviously different from the others. To be able to cultivate in the Sword Pagoda as a Saiyan Great Sovereign and stay there for a whole month, who in the entire Sword Sect could do that? Black Wolf. One move. What move? Hearing Black Wolf say one move, everyone was curious, including the 3 Xiang brothers. They all looked at Black Wolf, thinking that Black Wolf was scared silly and said one move out of the blue. Could it be that Black Wolf wants to defeat Fire Beacon in one move? Someone in the crowd said something. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. With regards to Hei Lang's strength, everyone was well aware of it. Saiyan Great Sovereign. Everyone knew that the difference between a Saiyan Great Sovereign and a Black Great Sovereign was too big. Not to mention one move, even 10,000 moves wouldn't be enough. If a Black Great Sovereign were to say that he could defeat a Saiyan Great Sovereign in one move, it would be more reasonable. Everyone thought that Longao was retarded. How could he be so arrogant? He was simply courting death. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Hearing Black Wolf's words, Fire Beacon laughed crazily. His laughter was filled with disdain and contempt, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Black Wolf, if you could defeat me in one move, I would have killed myself here. A gentleman keeps his word. A man keeps his word. Longao looked at his opponent coldly. He didn't plan to use the god-slaying sword. If it was before he entered the sword pagoda, he wouldn't have done this. No matter how confident he was in his own strength, he couldn't defeat his opponent in one move. After all, the difference between a black great sovereign and a cyan great sovereign was obvious. But now, the situation was completely reversed. After cultivating on the 8th and 9th level of the sword pagoda, he had entered the purple great sovereign realm from the cyan great sovereign realm. Even if his opponent was a black great sovereign, Longao was still confident that he could defeat his opponent in one move. This was absolute confidence. Using his finger as a sword. Seeing Black Wolf's intention, Fire Beacon obviously wouldn't use his weapon. Similarly, he used his finger as a sword. Both of them were ready to strike, but neither of them made the first move. The entire first level of the sword pagoda was exceptionally quiet. Everyone stared at the two of them, wanting to see if Fire Beacon was stronger or if Black Wolf was just boasting. According to Black Wolf's special situation, some people were actually anticipating that Black Wolf could defeat Fire Beacon in one move. But many of them knew that this was almost impossible. Time passed by slowly. Both of them still didn't make a move. What was going on? Everyone realized that something was wrong. Under normal circumstances, Fire Beacon should have already made his move. But now, at this moment, beads of sweat appeared on Fire Beacon's forehead, dripping down. He looked extremely solemn. What's going on? The three Xiang brothers were dumbfounded. They looked at each other, wanting to know what was going on with Fire Beacon. Sword aura. Others might not be able to sense it, but Fire Beacon was extremely depressed. This was because he never expected Black Wolf's sword aura to be so powerful. Putting aside who was stronger and who was weaker, he had already lost in terms of sword aura. Take my sword. Longao's sword aura had successfully suppressed Fire Beacon. He was overjoyed. Seizing this rare opportunity, he used his finger as a sword without hesitation and fiercely shot out a sword. Terrifying sword chi was released along with a powerful internal sword aura, suppressing Fire Beacon. This sword aura looked ordinary, but it was actually weak on the outside and strong on the inside. Chapter 1030. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. Black Wolf's attack was too ordinary. Not to mention Fenghua, even an ordinary Great Emperor Realm expert would be able to block it easily. Even so, he still wanted to defeat Fenghua in one move? Was Black Wolf too arrogant and overconfident, or was he retarded? The three Xiang brothers also let out a long sigh of relief. However, at this moment, before Fenghua could react, the sword chi had already arrived. The sword chi shot out by Longao was too fast. It was like a meteor. If it was an ordinary sword, Fenghua wouldn't care. However, Longao first used the sword aura to suppress Fenghua, then used the sword chi to slash down at an unbelievable speed. Longao wasn't an idiot. He knew clearly that if it was just strength, he wouldn't be able to defeat Fenghua in 10 moves, let alone one. After all, Fenghua's strength was above the purple grade Great Emperor realm. That was exactly the case. Longao used the sword aura to suppress Fenghua. In this way, it wasn't impossible to defeat Fenghua in one move. Crack. One had to admit that Fenghua's speed was very fast. Seeing that he was being suppressed by the sword aura, it wasn't a question of whether he could defeat Fenghua, but whether he could be killed. Of course, Fenghua didn't want to die. No one would want to die for nothing. While dodging, Fenghua's right arm was cut off by the sword chi. Fenghua screamed in agony. His body was on the verge of collapsing. Longao was a little disappointed that the sword chi didn't kill Fenghua. However, Longao was already very satisfied with his strength. Cutting off Fenghua's right arm in one move? What kind of concept was that? At this moment, everyone had successfully sensed that Black Wolf wasn't a green grade Great Emperor Realm expert, but a genuine purple grade Great Emperor Realm expert. Breaking through 2 levels in a month? Everyone sighed when they saw the young man with blood-red hair. His cultivation speed was simply too terrifying. However, no one said that Black Wolf's natural talent was great. Instead, they attributed all the credit to the Sword Pagoda. The Sword Pagoda was the supreme cultivation holy land of the Sword Sect. In everyone's opinion, anything was possible in the Sword Pagoda. Black Wolf. Without giving Feng Hua any chance to speak, Longao sneered, "You're just a loser. Next time, you won't be so lucky." Longao continued to linger. He took a step forward and left the sword pagoda. The three Xiang brothers looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The three of them had never imagined that Black Wolf would be able to cut off Fire Beacon's arm in one move. Not daring to have the slightest hesitation, the three Xiang brothers and the others filed out and followed closely behind Longao. Outside the sword pagoda, everyone sighed when they saw Black Wolf coming out. Lu Chongqing's face was extremely gloomy, but he didn't show himself. Even if Black Wolf could cut off Feng Hua's arm in one strike, it didn't mean that he was a match for a white-grade Great Emperor or a gold-grade Great Emperor. Putting aside Black Wolf's strength and whether he could withstand the three Xiang brothers, Black Wolf's courage alone was worthy of respect. Some people had already stopped being envious and started to look forward to Black Wolf. Such courage was hard to come by. Hearing that Black Wolf had accepted the challenge, the three Xiang brothers were overjoyed. They couldn't wait to attack immediately. However, the three Xiang brothers held themselves back in the end. They had already been shameless. If they continued to be shameless, how could they survive in the sect in the future? Black Wolf, are you preparing for a group battle or a one-on-one battle? Longao didn't speak. The others were also curious. They didn't know what Boss Xiang meant by group battle or one-on-one battle. Wasn't it supposed to be the three of them fighting against Black Wolf together? Black Wolf, I'll give you a chance. Group battle, you will fight against the three of us. One-on-one battle, the three of us will fight against you. Choose for yourself. F***CK Hearing Boss Xiang's shamelessness, everyone started cursing in their hearts. They had seen shameless people before, but they had never seen someone as shameless as Boss Xiang. This mother**Kerr was simply shameless to the extreme. He was the only one in this world. Longao wasn't angry at all. He smiled and said, "From the beginning to the end, I've never seen the three of you as humans. In my eyes, you're at most three mad dogs. Mad dogs, it's understandable that you're shameless." P.S. The 8th chapter has been delivered. The remaining 2 chapters will be delivered later. Everyone can vote. Chapter 1031. Mad Dog. Shameless. Upon hearing Black Wolf's words, laughter could be heard from all around. Black Wolf, you, without waiting for the three Xiang brothers to speak, Longao said impatiently, "If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't, then scram." One had to admit that Longao was really arrogant. "Ha ha ha, Black Wolf, as the sect's consecrator, we should give you a handicap. Please." It was a blatant disdain. In the eyes of the three Xiang brothers, this consecrator in front of them was nothing. Under normal circumstances, ordinary disciples had no right to challenge a consecrator. After all, the consecrators of the sword sect were all extremely powerful. The weakest one was a titled Great Emperor, or even a supreme Dao martial artist. However, Longao's situation was a little special. It was natural for the three Xiang brothers to challenge a consecrator. They took the initiative to attack. Longao took a step forward and charged forward. Before he arrived, his terrifying sword aura had already suppressed the three Xiang brothers. When Longao fought with Feng Hua, he didn't reveal his sword aura. Therefore, until now, the three Xiang brothers didn't know how terrifying Black Wolf's sword aura was. Now that they had learned their lesson, the three Xiang brothers didn't dare to be careless. The three of them attacked from different directions. Even though it was 1 against 3, Longao didn't show any fear. Instead, he seemed to be getting braver as the battle went on. 36 thunder styles in addition to the Emperor Dragon's 9 fatal strikes. There was no dragon roar, only the sound of thunder. Longao used his fingers as a sword. Each strike was faster than the previous one. In the end, Longao's figure couldn't be seen at all. The sword aura layered on top of each other, and its power was amplified. Black Wolf, don't you dare. Seeing Black Wolf charging at their third brother, both the eldest Xiang brother and the second Xiang brother panicked. However, it had to be known that third brother and Fire Beacon's strength were about the same. Since Black Wolf was able to cut off Fire Beacon's arm in one move, his strength was obvious. Third brother's strength alone was definitely not enough to stop Black Wolf. Longao didn't stop at all. Even if he didn't make use of teleportation, his speed was still extremely fast. It wasn't something that the two of them could compete with. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Longao chose to ignore the two of them and continued shooting towards Xiang Laosan. Longao was very clear that if he wanted to win, he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, with the combined strength of the three Xiang brothers, it would be very difficult for him to win. End the battle quickly. Longao instantly arrived in front of Xiang Laosan. Using his fingers as a sword, he ruthlessly struck out with the 36 Thunderbolt styles. Longao's strength and understanding of Sword Dao were no longer the same as before. Even if it was a black grade Great Emperor, Longao could almost instantly kill him. Gotcha! Under Xiang Laosan's shocked gaze, the sword chi slashed across. If it wasn't for Longao holding back, Xiang Laosan would have been dead by this move alone. This was Longao's strength. Seeing Xiang Laosan's arm being cut off, the surrounding spectators were all dumbfounded. Was a purple grade Great Emperor so powerful? In a secluded place far away, seeing He Lang fighting 1 against 3, not only was he at ease, he was even able to chop off Xiang Laosan's arm. Lu Chongqing's expression turned ugly as he clenched his fists tightly. If not for the fact that he was worried about the sect and the sect master, he would have already made his move. Endure. In the end, Lu Chongqing still endured. After all, there would be plenty of opportunities in the future. Longao successfully cut off Xiang Laosan's arm and ruthlessly kicked Xiang Laosan's dantian. This time, Xiang Laosan completely lost the ability to fight back. Seeing Xiang Laosan's arm being cut off, Xiang Laosan and Xiang Laosan were both shocked. Before the two of them could get close, Longao's backhand slashed out. The sword chi swept out and forced the two of them to stay outside. Before the two of them could react, Longao had already charged over. This time, Longao directly used his sword force to suppress the two of them. Even Xiang Laosan couldn't resist the sword force's suppression. Feeling the terrifying sword force suppression, the two of them were very surprised. The two of them couldn't figure out why their opponent, who was only a purple grade Great Emperor, could condense such a terrifying sword force. Even with their strength, they couldn't resist it. Sword force suppressing sword force. The sword force released by the two of them was instantly engulfed by Longao's sword force. However, Longao didn't continue to attack. Longao was very confident in his strength and sword force, but he also knew his own limits. With his current strength, he still couldn't defeat a gold grade Great Emperor. As for a white grade Great Emperor, it was still unknown whether he could defeat one. That was exactly the case. Longao knew when to stop. As long as the Xiang brothers didn't continue to attack, he would have already won this battle. As expected, just as Longao had guessed, the sword force he released just now had already frightened the two of them. Xiang Laosan and Xiang Laosan stared at Black Wolf in front of them. In the end, the two of them still chose to give up. Lost? The two of them chose to give up. The surrounding spectators were very clear that the three Xiang brothers had lost this battle. Black Wolf Consecrator had won. Black Wolf, just you wait. Seeing that the three Xiang brothers had lost, Lu Chongqing didn't stay any longer. He turned around and left. In a short while, Lu Chongqing had already disappeared without a trace. Seeing that you're disciples of the sword sect, I'll let you off today. Remember, don't provoke me again. At this point, Longao didn't continue, but the meaning in his words was very clear. The three Xiang brothers weren't fools. Of course, they understood the meaning in his words. However, since things had already come to this point, they had nothing else to say. The three Xiang brothers turned around and left. The surrounding spectators sighed. Until now, many people still couldn't believe this battle. A purple grade Great Emperor had actually defeated the three Xiang brothers. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. After defeating the three Xiang brothers, Longao didn't stay any longer. He also turned around and left. Outside the Sword Pagoda, the spectators gradually dispersed. Some of them returned to the Sword Pagoda to continue cultivating. The battle between the two sides had finally come to an end. Opposite the Sword Pagoda, on the peak of the mountain, Muronguena and Yi Xian had watched the battle between the three Xiang brothers and Longao from beginning to end. After the battle ended, Yi Xian said with a smile, "What a cunning Longao." He knew that he wasn't a match for the two of them, so he deliberately set up a trap. If Longao used his full strength, he could kill a white-grade Great Emperor. Sword Aura, such a powerful sword aura. If I'm not mistaken, Longao must have obtained the old ancestor's secret. Hearing the master's words, Yi Xian was shocked. He knew very well what it meant to obtain the old ancestor's secret. After so many years, other than the old ancestor's sword demon, wasn't Longao the second person to obtain the old ancestor's secret? Master, what should we do now? Chapter 1032. Leave this to me. Yes, Master. Muronguena looked at the disappearing figure with an indescribable expression. In the sword sect, in the main hall, there were only two people in the main hall. One was the sword sect master, known as the Emperor Muronguena. The other was Longao, who had just left the sword pagoda and defeated the fire beacon and the three Xiang brothers. He was also the enshrined black wolf of the sword sect. Longao, did you gain anything from the sword pagoda this time? Longao was a little amused. Longao had already guessed Muronguena's intention for suddenly looking for him. He wanted to ask if he had obtained the secret of the sword pagoda. Longao did not hide anything from him. He told him everything about entering the murals on the 9th floor of the sword pagoda and meeting Jian Tian. After listening to him, Muronguena was very surprised because he never expected that Longao would not accept the ancestor's inheritance. He knew very well what the ancestor's sword principal inheritance meant. Longao, why don't you accept the ancestor's sword principal inheritance? Do you know that once you accept it, you will become one of the most powerful warriors in the world in the future? Longao knew what Muronguena meant. He thought about it. Master, I just want to walk my own sword principle. What belongs to others will always belong to others. Seeing that Longao did not want to say more, Muronguena sighed deeply. In fact, he was still looking forward to this outcome. After all, Longao was still an outsider. If he received the ancestor's sword principal inheritance, what would the sword sect do if he betrayed the sword sect in the future? Master, this is what the ancestor gave you. Longao did not take it for himself. He took out the sword that Jian Tian had given him. After receiving the sword, Muronguena's entire body began to tremble. Without saying a word, he stared at the sword in his hand. Longao, what orders does the old ancestor have? No, you can go first. Nodding his head, Longao turned around and left. Only Muronguena was left in the hall. At this moment, the sword emitted a terrifying sword Dao. Then, Jian Tian's divine soul appeared. Seeing the divine soul of the old ancestor, Muronguena immediately knelt on the ground and shouted with great respect, "Disciple Muronguena greets the old ancestor. Induction, you are still one step away." Exactly. Muronguena did not know why the old ancestor asked that. Could it be that the old ancestor wanted to help him? After leaving the hall, Longao said with a smile, "Yin, come out." Just as expected. Yin walked out slowly and said with a smile, "Longao, I really have to congratulate you. You have advanced to the purple grade Great Emperor realm after entering the Sword Pagoda." Even Morong Yenner was a little surprised when she heard about Longao. No matter what tricks Lu Chongqing plays, I will take them all on. Seeing Longao's determined face, Yen sighed deeply again and said helplessly, "I will also participate in the assassination mission this time. When the time comes, you and I will travel together. I don't believe that Lu Chongqing will dare to play any tricks." Morong Yenner was obviously participating in the assassination mission for his sake. Longao was not a fool. Of course, he could guess it. He asked curiously, "Yin does the sect allow Supreme Tao warriors to participate in the assassination mission?" Longao more or less knew about the Sword Sect's assassination mission. Only titled Great Emperors and below were allowed to participate. Swordsmen above the Supreme Tao realm were prohibited from entering. If Yenner insisted on participating, he believed that no one could stop her. However, If something happened to Yin, he would not be able to explain it. No, but I have a way. Yin, do you trust me? Yin didn't know why Longao asked this, but she still nodded. Her meaning was very clear. Yin, since you have chosen to trust me, then let me deal with the assassination mission alone. No matter what happens, don't interfere. Okay?
But
Is that okay? Seeing that Longao had already made his decision, Yin knew very well that it was useless for her to say anything more. She shrugged helplessly and could only say bitterly, in that case, I can only wish you good luck. However, you must be careful in everything you do. P.S. All 10 chapters have been delivered. Chapter 1033. After sending off Yin, Longao immediately started cultivating. Longao had never thought that he would be able to break through from the green-grade Great Emperor realm to the purple-grade Great Emperor realm after entering the Sword Pagoda. Who knew how long it would take to break through 2 whole levels if he were to cultivate under normal circumstances? The Sword Pagoda was indeed the cultivation's sacred ground of the Sword Sect. Longao knew clearly that if he could cultivate in the Sword Pagoda for another 8 to 10 years, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through to the Supreme Tao realm. Longao, your cultivation is too low. Looking at Xiling, who suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao was very curious. He didn't know what Xiling meant. Xiling, get straight to the point. Xiling nodded and walked to the side to sit down. Longao, let's be frank. You and I can help each other. What do you think? How can we help each other? Longao was even more curious. He didn't know what Xiling meant. You help me and my sister to return to our peak condition, and I'll help you to increase your strength quickly. 2 birds with 1 stone. What do you think? I see. Regarding what Purple Spirit said, Longao already understood it clearly. Since things had already progressed to this stage, Longao certainly wouldn't choose to object. Of course, he knew what Xiling meant. No problem. Xiling let out a rare smile and said, Longao, from now on, other than continuing to cultivate your sword principle, I'll help you to strengthen and condense your sword principle. This way, your cultivation speed will increase by at least 10 times. F***ck Longao cursed in his heart. Although he had already guessed it, he still couldn't help but be shocked when Xiling actually said it out loud. Xiling, how do you need me to help you? All along, Longao didn't believe that a free lunch would fall from the sky. It was already good enough that Xiling didn't kill him. How could he help him for no reason? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he didn't believe it. We'll talk about that later. He shrugged helplessly. At this moment, Longao realized that Long Fu was summoning him. He informed Xiling and entered the Dragon Seal space. Ever since he was able to enter the Dragon Seal space with his body, Longao wouldn't enter the Dragon Seal space with his soul unless he had no other choice. The risk was too great. In the Dragon Seal space. Long Fu, what is it? Longao knew very well that Long Fu would not summon him unless there was something important. Could it be about the Sword Demon's soul slave? Just as expected. Just as Longao guessed, Long Fu nodded and said, Master, I've already refined the Sword Demon's remnant soul into a soul slave. According to the power of the Sword Demon's soul slave, Master can even leave with the help of the soul slave. As for its power, it's enough to kill a titled Great Emperor. Hearing Long Fu's words, Longao was overjoyed. This mother****, he could get whatever he wanted. However, he was about to participate in the Sword Sect's sword assassination mission. With Lu Chongqing as a threat, it could be said that he was surrounded by danger. If he wasn't careful, he would get into trouble and be consigned to eternal damnation. However, now that he had the Sword Demon's soul slave, Longao could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Long Fu had already said that with the power of the Sword Demon's soul slave, it was enough to kill a titled Great Emperor. As for the Supreme Tao or Peerless Supreme Tao, they could use the power of the soul slave to leave smoothly. Although it couldn't block the attack of a Nirvana realm martial artist, Longao was already satisfied. The sword assassination mission, martial artists below the Supreme Tao could participate. In other words, if he participated in the sword assassination mission, he could do whatever he wanted and ignore everyone's existence. Long Fu, this time I've successfully refined the Sword Demon's remnant soul. Next, I hope you can help me refine the great Emperor's soul slave army. What do you think? Longao had already thought it through. Even with the help of the Sword Demon's soul slave, he was still very passive most of the time. If he could refine hundreds of thousands or even millions of soul slaves, and all of them were great Emperor-level soul slaves at that time, as long as he gave the order, who would dare to ignore him? In this world, especially in the Sky Martial continent, strength was respected. Without a fist, you were a grandson and no one would put you in their eyes. That was exactly the case. Longao was prepared to refine a million-corpse slave army. At that time, no matter who it was, if they dared to make a fuss, he would just go to war. Anyway, he had the help of the Sword Demon's soul slave. As long as he didn't meet a Nirvana realm martial artist, he believed that everything would be fine. Long Fu thought for a while and nodded. How could Long Fu not know what his master was thinking? Master, refining a million-corpse slave army is not a problem. But Master, have you thought about where we can find a million soul slaves? Longao was helpless and even a little depressed. It was as Long Fu had said. Refining soul slaves was not a problem at all. Even refining an army of a million corpses would not be a problem. After all, Long Fu was borrowing the power of the blood pool. This was a simple matter. As long as he had enough time, he could accomplish it. But a million soul slaves? In order to refine a million-corpse slave army, he had to find a million soul slaves first. This matter sounded simple, but it was incomparably difficult. Even if he went to the Spirit Beast Forest and wanted to kill a million great Emperor Spirit Beasts, it was still an extremely difficult matter. Could it be that he had to give up just like that? Long Fu, I will deal with the soul slaves. When the time comes, I will have to trouble you. Don't worry, when the time comes, I will do my best to help Master refine a soul slave army. A soul slave army. This time, Longao did not want to refine a corpse slave army. Compared to a soul slave's strength was far above a corpse slave's. However, a soul slave could not leave the dragon seal space, which made it inferior to a corpse slave army. But after thinking about it, Longao was still prepared to refine a soul slave army. Longao, who had just left the dragon seal space, was preparing to continue cultivating in order to deal with the upcoming sword massacre operation. But at this moment, the situation suddenly changed. Longao's expression changed abruptly. Without hesitation, he immediately got up and left his residence, shooting towards the back mountain of the sword sect. Flying in the air, Longao borrowed the speed of spatial teleportation and left the sword sect mountain in a short while. After reaching a mountain peak far away from the sword sect mountain, he barely stopped. Longao did not care about anything else, because he never thought that the two primal chaos stone tablets would choose to make a move at this time. He had no control over the primal chaos stone tablets. According to Long Fu, in this world, there was no one who could possess two primal chaos stone tablets at the same time. He was the first, and could be said to be the first. The two primal chaos stone tablets could collide at any time. At that time, the fish in the moat would be affected. Chapter 1034. Long Fu, what should I do? Longao did not understand the two primal chaos stone tablets at all. The 5 elements primal chaos stone tablet. 2 of the 12 primal chaos stone tablets in the world. Longao was afraid that something like this would happen. If he was unlucky, he would be caught in the crossfire and killed by the collision of the 2 primal chaos stone tablets. Master, hurry and circulate the 5 elements devouring heaven art and the firmament devouring art. Try to separate the 2 primal chaos stone tablets. He nodded. The situation was urgent. No matter what method he used, as long as he could separate the 2 primal chaos stone tablets, everything would be fine. Longao did not hesitate. He immediately circulated the 2 primal chaos stone tablets. They were the 5 elements devouring heaven art and the firmament devouring art. The 2 different powers revolved with the Tao of Yin and Yang. Xiling and Bai Ling appeared. Looking at Longao, who was sweating profusely as if he was in a big battle, Bai Ling's face was filled with worry. Sister, hurry and help young Master Long, help? She sighed helplessly. Xiling did not expect that there would be 2 primal chaos stone tablets hidden in Longao's body. Moreover, he did not explode and die. This was a miracle among miracles. Sister, the primal chaos stone tablets are the strongest weapons in the world. If we forcefully attack, once we are swallowed by the primal chaos stone tablets, we will never be able to recover. How could Bai Ling not know what her sister was talking about? But Longao's life was at stake. He could be killed by the 2 primal chaos stone tablets at any time. How could Bai Ling remain calm? Sister, you should know the power of the primal chaos stone tablets. I advise you not to act rashly. Otherwise, not only you, even he will die. So. At this time, within Longao's dantian, 2 stone tablets suddenly shot out. It was the 5 elements primal chaos stone tablet that had been peaceful, devouring the primal chaos stone tablets. The 2 primal chaos stone tablets were as tall as 100 people. They emitted a terrifying aura. Luckily, the target of the 2 primal chaos stone tablets was Longao and not Xiling and Bai Ling. Otherwise, Xiling and Bai Ling would be doomed. After all, the power of the 2 primal chaos stone tablets was there. Longao's body was covered in sweat. He closed his eyes and clenched his fists. The 2 primal chaos stone tablets did not directly start fighting. Instead, they emitted power that passed through Longao's body and continuously fought. This was the most painful part. If this continued, there was only one result, and that was that Longao would definitely die. Sister, I beg you. If you don't ask me, I have no choice. Staring at Longao in front of her, Bai Ling finally gritted her teeth. Her entire body turned into a ball of white light and shot towards the 2 chaos stone tablets. Seeing his sister shoot at the primal chaos stone tablets, Xiling jumped in fright. As if he had guessed what his sister was going to do, Xiling could only stand there anxiously. The 2 primal chaos stone tablets were too dangerous. Let alone her current strength, even if she recovered to her peak state, she wouldn't dare rashly collide with them. Legend. There were a total of 12 primal chaos stone tablets in the world. Each one of them was an incomparably powerful existence. At the same time, each one of them could destroy the heavens and the earth. Why would the primal chaos stone tablets appear in the martial heaven continent? Xiling couldn't understand. Furthermore, Longao actually had 2 primal chaos stone tablets in his body. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. It was too shocking. Xiling was extremely worried about his sister's safety, but he could only stand there helplessly, staring at the 2 primal chaos stone tablets. Bai Ling transformed into a streak of white light. She had already arrived at Longao's side. Looking at the pale-faced Longao, Bai Ling ignored everything and directly entered his dantian. Young Master Long, I've come to help you. Within his soul. Hearing this voice, Longao was extremely moved. He was very clear what Bai Ling's forceful actions meant. If he was unlucky, he could be killed by the 2 primal chaos stone tablets at any moment. Bai Ling, don't worry about me. Leave first. Before Longao could even finish speaking, he felt a terrifying power spread throughout his body. This was Bai Ling's power. Master, hurry and circulate the firmament devouring art and the 5 elements devouring heaven art. Longao didn't dare to hesitate at all, because Bai Ling was willing to give up her life for him. If he missed this opportunity, not only would he be letting himself down, he would also be letting Bai Ling down. The 2 supreme martial skills were activated at the same time. The 2 powers occupied 2 sides, each taking half of the world. If Longao was alone, it would be impossible to forcefully separate the 2 primal chaos stone tablets, even with the help of the 5 elements heaven devouring art and the firmament devouring art. But now, Longao had Bai Ling's full support. Gradually, the power of the 2 primal chaos stone tablets began to separate. At this time, Longao and Bai Ling both let out a long sigh of relief. But before the 2 of them could rest, the 2 powers that had just been separated started fighting again. This time, the 2 powers attacked each other with even more terrifying power. If this continued, even Bai Ling might not be able to stop the 2 primal chaos stone tablets. Young Master Long, I'll lend you my true body. Bai Ling, you can't do that. Hearing Bai Ling's words, Long Ao jumped in fright. He naturally knew what Bai Ling's true body meant. If Bai Ling's true body was injured, then even a Nirvana realm expert wouldn't be able to save Bai Ling. He couldn't harm Bai Ling for himself. Long Ao naturally wasn't willing to accept her true body's power. Young Master Long, things have already reached this point. If you don't borrow my true body's power, then the two of us will die. The power of the two primal chaos stone tablets is too terrifying. While they are still sealed, perhaps we can forcibly separate them. But once the two primal chaos stone tablets attack each other and break the other's seal, at that time, not just you and me, but the entire martial heaven continent will be destroyed in an instant. Was this true or false? Long Ao felt that Bai Ling was exaggerating. Although he had to admit that the two primal chaos stone tablets were extremely powerful, he didn't really believe that they could destroy the world. Let alone the two primal chaos stone tablets. Even the God Diviner and the heavenly Daos were unable to do this. Could it be that the two primal chaos stone tablets were above the heavenly Daos and the God Diviner? But it had to be known. In the martial heaven continent, only the heavenly Daos and the God Diviner had truly reached the peak of the martial path. No matter how powerful the two primal chaos stone tablets were, they couldn't possibly fight against the peak of the martial path. Master, Bai Ling's words are correct. If the two primal chaos stone tablets attack each other and break the seal, the world will be destroyed in the blink of an eye. If Bai Ling had said this, perhaps Long Ao wouldn't have believed it. But now, even Long Fu had said this. Long Ao was very clear that he had no choice but to believe it. Chapter 1035. The primal chaos stone tablets could destroy the heavens and the earth. If it really was as Bai Ling and Long Fu had said, then he absolutely could not allow the two primal chaos stone tablets to break their seals. Long Ao did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. He fully activated the Heavenly Devouring Technique and the Five Elements Heaven Devouring Technique. How terrifying! Long Ao had always thought that Bai Ling and Xiling were extremely powerful, but he never would have thought that Bai Ling's true body would be so powerful, far surpassing his understanding. Borrowing the strength of Bai Ling's true body, Long Ao roared loudly and forcefully separated the two primal chaos stone tablets. Although they were temporarily separated, Long Ao was very clear that the two primal chaos stone tablets could start fighting again at any moment. What should he do then? Long Fu, what should I do next? After a moment of silence, Long Fu suddenly said, Master, with the help of Bai Ling's true body, the two primal chaos stone tablets have temporarily separated. Let's think of something later. Even Long Fu had said so. Long Ao could only nod. Bai Ling's appearance caused Long Ao to let out a long sigh of relief. Bai Ling, remember this? Without my permission, you are not allowed to act on your own. I understand, sister. He glanced at Bai Ling, then at Xiling. Bai Ling, thank you. He did not say any more nonsense. This time, Bai Ling had not been afraid of danger to help him. If he said that he did not dare to move, then he would be lying. Moreover, at the last moment, Bai Ling had actually used the power of her true body. Who could do such a thing? Bai Ling was too kind. Long Ao, why do you have two primal chaos stone tablets in your body? Although Xiling didn't help him this time, Long Ao wasn't angry at all. He didn't want to hide the truth, because it was human nature. Not only Xiling, he believed that no matter who it was, they wouldn't choose to help at that time. With their lives at stake, who would disregard their own to save an outsider? How could Xiling do something that not even the sages could do? As for the matter of the two chaos stone tablets, Long Ao actually didn't want to tell anyone about it. This was because he was very clear in his heart just what it meant to have two chaos stone tablets. Next, Long Ao briefly explained the matter of the two chaos stone tablets. After listening, Bai Ling and Xiling both nodded, as if they didn't have any doubts. Young Master Long, since you already know what the two primal chaos stone tablets mean, then the two primal chaos stone tablets are within your body. They can begin fighting again at any moment. If you relax for even a moment, you will. Bai Ling did not continue, but the meaning of her words was already very clear. When the two primal chaos stone tablets began fighting, They could be implicated at any moment. As for what Bai Ling was worried about, how could Longao not know? Primal Chaos Stone Tablets. Xiling, who had been silent all this time, suddenly said, Longao, you must quickly resolve the 2 Primal Chaos Stone Tablets. Otherwise, you will be killed at any moment. Let me ask you now, have you already comprehended a powerful martial skill from the 2 Primal Chaos Stone Tablets? There was nothing to hide about this point. Longao told the 2 of them about the Firmament Devouring Art and the 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art. Of the 2 powerful martial skills, the Firmament Devouring Art's power didn't need to be mentioned. As for the 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art, he still hadn't fully comprehended it. However, Longao was very clear that the 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art wasn't that simple. The 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art was very powerful. However, the 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art was too difficult to cultivate. It was even more difficult than the Firmament Devouring Art. Xiling seemed to be able to guess what Longao was thinking. He thought about it. Longao, if I'm not mistaken, you've already cultivated the Firmament Devouring Art to a small degree. Only the 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art is still not fully cultivated, right? F***ck Longao didn't know why Xiling's guess was so accurate. Could it be that Xiling knew about the 5 Elements Primal Chaos Stone Tablets and how to devour them? That's right. Longao, if you have the chance in the future, you should make a trip to the 5 Elements sect. At that time, your 5 Elements Heaven Devouring Art will have a huge breakthrough. 5 Elements sect? Longao wasn't a stranger to the 5 Elements sect. In the Martial Sky Continent, there were 10 factions. They were the Long Family, the Pill Alliance, the Martial Artists Alliance, the Myriad Beasts Sect, the Heaven and Earth Sect, the 5 Elements Sect, the Wanjan School, the Sword Sect, the Violet Thunder Sect, and the Profound Heaven Sect. The 5 Elements Sect, the Myriad Beasts Sect, and the Heaven and Earth Sect were known as the 3 sects of the Martial Sky Continent. One could imagine how powerful the 5 Elements Sect was. Although Xiling didn't continue, Longao could already guess why Xiling wanted him to go to the 5 Elements Sect. Everyone knew. The disciples of the 5 Elements sect all cultivated the power of the 5 Elements. I know. Xiling fiercely glared at Bai Ling, who was beside her, and said in a very displeased manner, Longao, this time younger sister has used her true self. The strength that she had recovered previously has been for naught. Longao also looked at Bai Ling. He didn't say anything. Things had already reached this point. He didn't know what to say. Sister. Waving his hand, Xiling said coldly, you don't have to pay for it. You're on your own now. Xiling turned into a purple stream of air and entered the God-punishing sword. Behind the mountain peak, only Longao and Bai Ling were left. They looked at each other. He shuddered. Could it be that he was hallucinating? For a moment, he thought he saw Bai Ling looking at him with eyes full of love. That kind of selfless love. What was going on? Impossible. Definitely impossible. How could Bai Ling like him? It must be a hallucination. Bai Ling, thank you so much. I will think of all kinds of ways to help you recover to your peak. Nodding, Bai Ling only told him to be careful. Then she turned into a ball of white light and returned to the God-punishing sword. Arriving at the peak of the mountain, Longao stood alone at the peak of the mountain, letting the breeze blow past him. In that moment of life and death, Longao seemed to understand something, but he couldn't explain it clearly. The 2 Chaos Tablets, the so-called Devouring Chaos Tablet and the 5 Elements Chaos Tablet, had always been a big problem in his body, because he didn't know when the 2 Chaos Tablets would continue to fight. Just as Xiling had said, once the 2 Chaos Tablets began to fight, they would break the other's seal. At that time, he would definitely be caught in the crossfire and killed by the aura released by the 2 Chaos Tablets. What should he do? Separating the 2 Chaos Tablets was only temporary. Longao was very clear that he had to quickly think of a way to deal with the 2 Chaos Tablets. Otherwise, the consequences would be unthinkable. Master, I've already thought about the 2 Chaos Tablets. If you want to completely deal with them, there is only one way. What way? Pleasantly surprised, Longao impatiently asked. Because right now, The most important thing to do was to think of a way to prevent the two chaos tablets from continuing to fight. Author's note: the third chapter has been delivered. Brothers who still have a monthly ticket or a recommendation ticket, you can buy a few. Chapter 1036. Fuse. Longao wasn't an idiot. Of course, he understood what Long Fu meant. If nothing unexpected happened, Long Fu wanted him to fuse with the two primal chaos tablets. This way, the two tablets would be his own. As long as he wasn't willing, the two tablets wouldn't fight. That was the only and best way to go about it. He sighed deeply. Fusing was easier said than done. If he could fuse with the two tablets, he wouldn't have to wait until now. Long Fu, is there a way to fuse the two tablets? There is. So Long Fu had already thought of a way. If that was really the case, then that would be great. Master, with your current strength, you can't forcefully fuse with the tablets. If you do, you'll be devoured by the tablets and become their puppet. Nodding. How could Longao not know this point? Longao didn't say anything. He was waiting for Long Fu to speak. Master, you haven't successfully cultivated the 5 elements heaven-swallowing art. So, to fuse with the tablets, it's almost impossible. The only way is to first fuse with the tablets. Without giving Longao a chance to speak, Long Fu continued, Master, there is only one thing you need to do now. That is to use the celestial devouring skill to continuously devour the power of all things and merge it into the devouring primal chaos tablet. That way, when you reach a certain level, I believe you will be able to completely merge with the devouring primal chaos tablet. So that's how it was. Longao already understood Long Fu's meaning. Borrowing the heavenly swallowing art to continuously devour energy and fuse with the tablets. This sounded simple, but in reality, it was incomparably difficult. Master, although you can immediately fuse with the tablets, as you continue to devour energy, I believe it won't be easy for the two tablets to fight. Long Fu, I know what to do. No matter what, he had to participate in this sword assassination mission. According to Morong Guena, the destination of the sword slaughter mission was a place where spirit beasts gathered. Like this, not only could he refine an army of 1,000,000 corpse slaves, but he could also swallow the strength of spirit beasts and fuse with the chaos stone tablets. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. For the entire night, Longao didn't leave the mountain peak for a long time. He just stood there quietly. After so many years, this was the first time he had calmed down and spent a good night here. The next day, Longao left the mountain peak and headed towards the sword sect. The sword kill mission would begin in 5 days. It would last for a month, and many swordsmen would enter the forest. At that time, whether they lived or died would depend on their luck. For many people, the assassin sword mission was an opportunity to gain experience. Just as he returned to the sword sect, Longao was worried. As the saying goes, when enemies meet, their eyes turn red. However, it didn't matter. Not to mention Lu Chongqing. Even if the master and great elder were here, they wouldn't be able to discover the existence of the sword demon. Longao was almost certain that if the sword sect found out that he had refined the sword demon's remnant soul into a soul slave, not to mention the sword sect, he believed that no matter who it was, they wouldn't let this matter go. What does it have to do with you? Lu Chongqing, don't think that you're invincible. If you want to die, you can try again. This time, I won't be merciful. Lu Chongqing stared fixedly. It would be a lie if he said that he wasn't afraid. Otherwise, why would he wait until now? Black Wolf, just you wait. From the beginning to the end, Lu Chongqing didn't know that Longao was only weak on the outside. Even with the help of the sword demon's soul slave, the sword demon's soul slave could only withstand 1 move. If Lu Chongqing continued to attack, then without the help of the sword demon's soul slave, Longao would undoubtedly die unless he entered the dragon seal space. However, Lu Chongqing was still afraid in the end. He turned around and left. In a short while, he had already disappeared without a trace. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Longao finally let out a sigh of relief. Although the sword demon's soul slave was powerful, it could only withstand 1 move. This was a pain in the ass. Author's note: Chapter 4 has been delivered. Today, There are still 10 chapters, but Little Nine has something to do in the afternoon. He will come back at night to explode. Chapter 1037. Inside the Sword Sect. Lu Changsheng, who had returned to his residence, was still in a daze. Lu Changsheng couldn't understand why the remnant soul that Longao summoned was so valiant that it was able to withstand his move. Black Wolf, no matter what, I will make sure you die without a burial ground. The vicious Lu Changsheng didn't know the truth. Otherwise, he might have been so angry that he would have smashed himself to death. Clear Sky Sect. Yang Yu's expression was extremely gloomy because he was still unable to lock onto Longao's position. Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu stood on the spot while trembling with fear. They didn't move an inch because as time passed, they realized that something was wrong with their grandfather. It was as though he had turned into another person. What exactly was going on? The two of them didn't dare to ask because they didn't know when their grandfather would go crazy. If they were to be killed, it wouldn't be worth it. Grandfather, what should we do now? Humph, Longao, don't think that you can escape from my palm. I will definitely find you this time. Yang Yu glanced at the two of them and said, Follow me. Immediately after, Yang Yu led the two of them out of the main hall. In just a short moment, the three of them entered the mysterious cave. In the center of the cave, there was a giant blood pool that was constantly bubbling with blood. It was like boiling water. Grandfather, are we really able to lock onto Longao's position? Yang Dingtian and Zhao Yu still didn't dare to believe it. After all, they didn't have any information after such a long time. If they could lock onto him, their grandfather wouldn't have to wait until now. Yang Yu nodded. Come down with me. They might be afraid, but they didn't dare to resist. The three of them instantly jumped into the blood pool and didn't even cause any ripples. The blood pool had already regained its calmness. There were still 5 days before the sword kill operation. Longao didn't waste the remaining 5 days and entered the sword pagoda for the second time. With the master's instructions, Longao could enter the sword pagoda anytime and no one would dare to stop him. If it was in the past, perhaps there would be people who would complain, but now, he believed that no one would say anything. No matter what, Longao had already entered the sword pagoda, entered the 7th floor, cultivated for an entire month, and broke through 2 levels. Just this point alone, how many people could do it? It was already a miracle that Longao could stay in the sword pagoda for a month as a green-grade great monarch. He had to admit defeat. The strong would always be respected. The 8th floor of the sword pagoda. Longao sat quietly in the sword guard. Countless streams of sword chi flowed into his body and out of his body, going back and forth in an endless cycle. Early purple grade Great Emperor realm. Longao hoped that he could completely stabilize his realm before the sword kill mission began. Even though he had the help of Sword Demon Soul Slave, there was always a chance. If something happened to the Sword Demon Soul Slave, he would have to rely on himself in the end. Life was unpredictable. Originally, Longao was prepared to participate in the sword slaughter mission, but at this time, the Sword Sect welcomed a powerful martial artist. Sword Sect, in the Great Hall. When Longao arrived, he realized that there were only 2 people in the Great Hall. One was the Sword Sect Master, Morong Guena, and the other was the Long family's patriarch, Long Ditian. Longao didn't expect Long Ditian to suddenly appear here. Could it be because of him? Longao, Brother Long wants to see you. Patriarch. Nodding his head, Long Ditian smiled and asked, How have you been recently? Not bad. Patriarch, why are you looking for me? Straight to the point. Longao didn't like to drag things out because he already felt that Long Ditian must have come to the sword sect for him. However, it wasn't the appointed time yet. If that was the case, what did Long Ditian want? I want you to return to the Patriarch Hall in advance to awaken your bloodline. As expected, when Longao saw Long Ditian, he had already guessed it. However, he didn't understand why Long Ditian would suddenly change his mind. Patriarch, I want to know, why? Longao, your growth has surprised me, so the time has been brought forward. Awakening one's bloodline in the Ancestral Hall was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In front of the Ancestral Hall's bloodline, the sword slaughter operation was not even worth mentioning. It was precisely because of this. Longao nodded his head and replied with a smile. All right, I agree to return to the Patriarch Hall. Ha ha ha, Brother Morong, thank you for taking care of Longao during this period of time. We'll take our leave first. And Longao and Long Dition did not continue to stay in the sword sect and quickly left. In the Great Hall, Morong Guena's expression was very ugly as he watched the figures gradually disappear. This was because even he never expected that Long Dition would suddenly descend and take Long Ao away. He was caught off guard. Master, what is the meaning of Long Dition's actions? Yi Xin's figure appeared. Although the sword sect and the Long family looked friendly on the surface, they were secretly fighting in the dark. Not only the two families, but the other 10 families were also like this. Old Fox, Long Dition must be afraid that we will bribe Long Ao, so he took action in advance. Shameless. Master, what should we do now? Let's wait and see. I want to see what tricks Long Dition wants to play with me. After leaving the sword sect, the two of them directly arrived on top of the giant dragon. Chapter 1038. Ninth Heaven Semi-God. It could be said that the semi-God was the link between the great emperor and the divine Tao. Long Ao was very clear in his heart that there was only one thing he needed to do now, and that was to break through the semi-God realm as quickly as possible. Only then would he be able to advance towards the divine Tao realm. This time, when he returned to the Long family, the person that Long Ao feared the most was the great elder of the Long family, Long Hang. With Long Hang's strength and status, he could mobilize almost half of the Long family's strength. Patriarch, I want to ask you something. Nodding his head, Long Dition smiled and said, Tell me about it. Patriarch, what is the 10,000-year calamity of the Dragon Clan? Long Ao had been conflicted about whether he should ask this question or not. After thinking about it, Long Ao finally decided to ask, because he was very curious if the Long family's 10,000-year calamity had anything to do with the heavenly Tao. Others might not know, but it was impossible for him not to know. In order to hunt down the primordial divine dragon and Long Tian, the heavenly Tao had always paid attention to the Long family and the Dragon Clan. However, there would always be times when the heavenly Tao became impatient. Once it did not want to continue waiting, then with the strength of the Long family and the Dragon Clan, would they be able to resist the heavenly Tao? There was no doubt about it. As the only two warriors at the peak of the martial Tao in the Sky Martial Continent, there was no need to talk about the strength of the heavenly Tao. He believed that other than the divine mathematician, no one else could contend against the heavenly Tao. As if he had already guessed it, Long Dition was not surprised. However, his smile had already disappeared and was replaced with a serious and helpless expression. Let's slow down. The speed of the heavenly divine dragon had clearly slowed down. Long Ao and Long Dition both sat down. Above the 9 heavens, 1,000 zhang long dragon soared into the sky. No matter if it was a human or a spirit beast, no one dared to approach it easily because the aura of the heavenly divine dragon was too strong. Long Ao was looking forward to it because he knew that Long Dition was about to tell him what the 10,000-year calamity was. With the Dragon Clan and the Dragon Clan joining hands, the Dragon Clan was definitely the strongest existence. Long Ao, have you heard of our old ancestor and the Dragon Clan's old ancestor? Long Tian? Primordial Divine Dragon? Of course, Long Ao knew about the two old ancestors that Long Dition had mentioned. Nodding, Long Ao answered honestly, I know a thing or two about it. Our old ancestor Long Tian and the dragon race's old ancestor Primordial Divine Dragon were both peak characters back in the day. They dominated the world and rarely had opponents. That's right. When he mentioned the two old ancestors, Long Dition's face was filled with pride. Long Ao, the strongest existence on the Martial Heaven continent, is the heavenly Daos. No one can match them. Even the two ancestors of the past weren't a match for them. Patriarch, could it be that the two ancestors were killed by the heavenly Tao? Why ask when you already know the answer? Long Ao clearly knew about the existence of the heavenly Tao and knew that the two ancestors were killed by the heavenly Tao, but he still did so. The reason was simple. he did not want Long Tian to know that he knew about this matter. Yes, he was obviously a little disappointed. Longao could also see that Long Tian was very afraid of the heavenly Tao. Back then, the two ancestors were too arrogant and fought with the heavenly Tao Jutian. In the end, they were defeated and even died. However, with the strength of the two ancestors, they could have entered the Tao of reincarnation. As long as they succeeded, the two ancestors would have been reborn. Longao also knew about this. Longao did not say anything and pretended not to know. The heavenly Tao is very afraid of the two ancestors being reborn to deal with him. Therefore, for so many years, he has been watching our dragon race and the Long family. Once the two ancestors appear, the consequences will be unimaginable. Patriarch, how do you know about this? It has been passed down from generation to generation. No one else knows about it. Only the patriarch of the Long family and the dragon race know about it. So that's how it is. Longao was also very clear about the reason why it was passed down from generation to generation. This matter could not be leaked out. Not to mention the seriousness of this matter. If the Long family and the people of the dragon race knew about it, it would cause panic. At that time, it would be really troublesome. The more Long Tian said this, the more Longao guessed that the 10,000-year catastrophe was related to the heavenly Tao. As expected. Longao, I believe you have already guessed that the 10,000-year catastrophe of the dragon race is actually the heavenly Tao. Longao did not say anything because he did not know what to say. Sigh, we actually don't know what the 10,000-year catastrophe is. The heavenly Tao was 100% the heavenly Tao. Longao could almost be sure that the 10,000-year catastrophe of the dragon race was definitely related to the heavenly Tao. If nothing unexpected happened, once the heavenly Tao lost its confidence, it would definitely attack the dragon race and the Long family. Patriarch, what do you want me to do? Longao, since things have come to this point, I don't plan to hide it from you. A senior told me before that you are the key to solving the 10,000-year catastrophe. Therefore, I want to raise your cultivation as fast as possible. The godly mathematician. Although Long Tian did not explain the other party's identity, Longao could still guess who this senior was. There was probably only one person in the world who could predict this matter, and that was the godly mathematician who had also stepped onto the peak of the martial Tao. His strength was even above the heavenly Tao. He cursed the godly mathematician in his heart for looking for trouble. Longao, you don't have to worry. I will do my best to help you. It would be a lie if he said that he was not worried. However, Longao did not show it, as if nothing had happened. He said, Patriarch, I will do my best. All right, I believe you. I know that Longhang wants to deal with you, but don't worry, I will settle this matter. However, you still have to be careful. Longhang and I are not on good terms. As the saying goes, it is easy to dodge an open spear, but difficult to guard against a hidden arrow. No one knows what he will do. Patriarch, I know what to do. Longhang was indeed a troublesome matter. As the great elder of the Long family, not to mention himself, Longhang even wanted to go against the patriarch. Longao knew very well that Longhang's position in the Long family was not comparable to Lu Chongqing's position in the sword sect. The two of them were not on the same level at all. Long Tian had just said that it was easy to dodge an open spear, but difficult to guard against a hidden arrow. If Longhang was determined to deal with him, then he really had to be careful. Longao, you have successfully produced a natural divine ability in your first bloodline awakening. This time, you should be able to produce a divine dragon golden body if nothing goes wrong during your second bloodline awakening. As for what grade it is, it will depend on your luck. Divine dragon golden body? Longao did not know what the divine dragon golden body that Long Tian was talking about was. However, it seemed that the divine dragon golden body was not simple to be mentioned by the patriarch of the Long family. Patriarch, what is the divine dragon golden body? While the two of them were talking, they were already close to the Long family. At this speed, the two of them would reach the Long family in a few minutes at most. It was still unknown whether he could reproduce the golden body of the divine dragon. Long Chun seemed to have thought of something and asked, Longao, When did you enter the ancestral hall? Longao knew that Longao hadn't entered the ancestral hall yet. This time, he had returned to the Long family smoothly. If nothing unexpected happened, Longao would definitely enter the ancestral hall to awaken his bloodline a second time. Long Chun was looking forward to it. He hoped that Longao could reproduce the golden divine dragon body. Ever since he entered the Long family, Long Chun felt that he was isolated and helpless. Longao was also his only friend. That was why he trusted him so wholeheartedly. 3 days later, Longao, I believe that Long Hang will definitely deal with you when you return to the Long family. You must be careful. Also, you defeated Long Yu previously and ranked 90th on the dragon ranking. I believe that many people will not be convinced. Trouble was coming. Until now, Long Chun still didn't know that Long Ao's cultivation had already broken through the Great Emperor realm and reached the purple grade Great Emperor realm. If he knew, what would he think? The dragon ranking was the most powerful ranking in the Long family. As long as one was a disciple of the Long family, it was their dream to enter the dragon ranking. Long Chun, I'll be more careful. Long Ao chatted with Long Chun for a while. Then, Long Ao stood up and left. There were only 3 days left. He had to prepare well to enter the ancestral hall and successfully awaken his bloodline a second time and reproduce the golden divine dragon body. Just as Long Chun said, trouble was coming. When Long Ao entered the Long family for the first time, he had defeated Long Yu. In just 1 day, he was ranked 90th on the dragon ranking. If he was a disciple of the Long family, there wouldn't be so much trouble. However, Long Ao's identity was only a disciple of a small 6th grade family in the Jojo continent. Many people were not convinced. They all thought that Long Ao was just lucky. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to defeat Long Yu and rank 90th on the dragon ranking. Long Ao was puzzled. He had followed Long Tion back to the Long family. No one should know. Why would there be people looking for trouble? Back then, Long Yu was a saint sovereign martial artist. Therefore, the people looking for trouble this time were 3 saint emperors. One move. Long Ao didn't want to waste time. After all, he only had 3 days to prepare. Therefore, in order to end the battle quickly, he defeated the 3 in 1 move. The difference between a saint emperor and a purple grade great emperor was too big. The news of Long Ao defeating 3 saint emperors in 1 move spread throughout the Long family. Everyone who heard the news was shocked. They couldn't believe it because it was only a few months since Long Ao defeated Long Yu. Such a cultivation speed was a little too terrifying. Could it be that Long Ao had broken through and was ranked as a great emperor? Although many people didn't believe it, the truth was right in front of them. Long Ao could defeat 3 saint emperors in 1 move. If there were no surprises, Long Ao's cultivation should have reached the great emperor realm. Many people knew that even if Long Ao had just broken through to the Crimson Grade Great Emperor realm, he could easily kill Saint Emperors. This was the difference between Saint Emperors and Great Emperors. Long Hang already knew that Long Ao had returned to the Long family. In a secret room, Long Hang's expression was very ugly because according to the previous agreement, it was not time yet, but Long Ao had already appeared in the family. This in itself already showed that this matter was allowed by the sect master. Long Ao had already been expelled from the family. But now, Long Ao had returned to the Long family and awakened his bloodline in the ancestral hall 3 days later. His status had increased imperceptibly. What had happened? Great Elder, what should we do? Kill him. Do it without leaving any traces. A simple word had already revealed Long Hang's intentions. According to Long Hang's status, he shouldn't go so far as to deal with an ordinary disciple. However, Long Ao was someone who was sandwiched between Long Hang and Long Tion. If Long Tion was at the top, he wanted Long Ao dead. Long Ao could also be considered a fish in the moat that was implicated. Long Tion arranged a private courtyard for Long Ao. It was extremely elegant. According to the rules of the dragon ranking, as long as one was ranked on the dragon ranking, they would be able to get a private residence like this. It was a reward in disguise. However, there are very few people who can reproduce it. In the past 100 years, less than 100 people have been able to reproduce the golden divine dragon body. F***ck Longao cursed in his heart. Although he had already guessed that there were very few people who could reproduce the golden body of the divine dragon, he had never expected that there would be less than 100 people in the entire Long family. What kind of concept was this? Young master, what about you? In fact, Longao did not need Longbo to answer. He had already guessed that Longbo must have reproduced the golden body of the divine dragon. Longbo's face was filled with pride and arrogance. Just as expected. My talent is limited and my bloodline is not the purest. Unlike my father, who was able to reproduce the level 8 golden body of the divine dragon, I only managed to reproduce the level 7 golden body of the divine dragon. The level 7 golden body of the divine dragon sounded very far from the level 9 golden body of the divine dragon. However, Longao knew very well that there were very few people in the entire Long family who could reproduce the level 7 golden body of the divine dragon. It was unknown if there were even 5 people. Longao, in 3 days, you will enter the ancestral hall to awaken your bloodline a second time. At that time, I hope that you can reproduce a high-grade golden body of the divine dragon. As for the power and wondrous effects of this martial technique, you will naturally know when the time comes. Before Longao could say anything, Longbo continued. Longao, previously, you defeated Longyu and ranked 90 on the dragon ranking. With your current strength, you can definitely enter the top 50. Why don't you use these few days to challenge the people at the top of the dragon ranking? Young master, I want to make some preparations. According to Longao's previous decision, he wanted to make use of these 3 days to prepare. At that time, he hoped that he could reproduce the golden body of the divine dragon. As for challenging the people at the top of the dragon ranking, he really did not consider it. The dragon ranking was only the ranking of the Long family, but it was of no use to him. In Longao's heart, he was still prepared to wait until his cultivation broke through to the titled Great Emperor realm or the demigod realm before directly challenging the people on the Earth ranking. No matter what, the Earth ranking was above the dragon ranking. The dragon ranking was only contested by the disciples of the Long family. However, the Earth ranking was different. The Earth ranking was contested by all the young disciples of the entire Tianwu continent. The two rankings could not be compared. However, Longbo waved his hand. Longao, I know what you're thinking. I can tell you clearly that only by entering the top 20 of the dragon ranking will you be able to obtain more benefits. The resources of a Long family are far from what you can imagine. After saying that, Longbo stood up, glanced at Longao, and continued, I won't harm you. Looking at the gradually disappearing figure, Longao thought about the meaning of Longbo's words. Challenging the people at the top of the dragon ranking was not a simple matter. If he was not careful, he would go for wool and come home shorn. At that time, it would only be a thankless task. As for Longbo's last words, Longao also began to slowly ponder over it. Long family was one of the 10 great tripods. Whether it was strength or foundation, they were all there. Just as Longbo said, the resources of a Long family were there. It was simply not something he could imagine. Only the top 20 of Longbo could obtain powerful resources. What Longao lacked now was strength. If he could obtain the resources of a Long family, he believed that it would be of great help to his strength. The top 50 of Longbo were almost all great emperors of the purple rank and above. Longao was very clear about his strength. He could even kill a black rank great emperor. As for great emperors of the white rank and above, whether he could defeat them was still unknown. In the main hall, Father, if we help Longao like this, if there's a change in the future, wouldn't we suffer a double loss? Longbo was very worried. Because until now, he still did not believe that Longao was the savior of the Long family and the Dragon Clan. After all, Longao's strength and talent were there. Compared to him, the difference was too great. How could Long Tian not understand his son's thoughts? He waved his hand and said solemnly, We have to believe in the clairvoyant's words. It's better to believe it than not. If Longao can really help us, it's worth it to help him. Chapter 1041. At this point, Longao did not continue to dwell on this issue. Father, if Longao can really rank in the top 20 of the dragon ranking, how are you going to help him? This was the question that Longao was truly concerned about. All along, Longao had never taken Longao seriously. However, there was always a possibility. If Longao really grew up, he would be the one who was directly threatened. I still need to think about this. Looking at his father in front of him, Longao seemed to want to say something, but he swallowed it in the end. The main hall was silent. The next day, Longao directly found the person ranked 49th on the dragon rankings and went straight to the point to issue a challenge. Chungbo, 49th on the dragon ranking, was a beginner black-grade great emperor martial artist. Within the Long family, he was considered a person with some fame. The surrounding crowd was in a heated discussion. No one could figure out what Longao was up to. Why did he want to challenge an elite on the dragon rank for no reason? However, even if Longao could defeat a Saint Emperor martial artist, it did not mean that he could challenge a black-grade great emperor martial artist. It was unknown who leaked the news, but the news that Longao was a purple-grade great emperor martial artist had already spread. Although everyone was shocked, they were still confused. Even a purple-grade great emperor martial artist would not be a match for a black-grade great emperor martial artist. The difference between the two was too big. They were not even on the same level. Longao, you really want to challenge me? Even now, Chungbo was still in disbelief. If it was someone else who challenged him, he could accept it. However, Longao was just a small purple-grade great emperor martial artist. Challenging him was simply seeking death. 3 moves. 3 moves? What did Longao mean? Could it be that Longao wanted to defeat Chungbo in 3 moves? F***ck hearing Longao's arrogant words, everyone looked at him with disdain and almost cursed out loud. They had seen arrogant people before, but they had never seen such an arrogant person. This mother ***ker was arrogant to the extreme. Ha ha ha, Longao, I have to admit that your courage and arrogance are indeed admirable. He laughed crazily. Chungbo seemed to have heard the funniest thing in the world. What he said was admirable. As long as one wasn't a fool, one would be able to tell that Chungbo was implying something. There was no praise, only endless disdain and contempt. Is Longao out of his mind? He's not out of his mind. He's just an idiot. He actually wants to defeat Chungbo in 3 moves. I don't care if you believe it or not, but I don't. We don't believe it either. Ignoring the discussions around him, Longao did not have any expression on his face. He said indifferently, if I cannot defeat you in 3 moves, I will cut my own throat here. At this moment, everyone stopped their disdain and contempt because they noticed that the young man in front of them didn't seem to be a fool. Could it be that he really had such strength and background? Chungbo also stopped laughing. Longao, I want to see why you are so arrogant today. Without waiting for Chungbo to finish speaking, Longao took a big stride forward, and his entire body directly rushed out. Longao did not intend to use spatial teleportation in this challenge because he did not want anyone in the Long family to know that he could use spatial teleportation. Before he arrived, a dragon roar could be heard. In the Long family, no matter who the challenger was, they were not allowed to use their dragon companions. After all, dragons were the most precious things in the Long family and the Dragon Clan. Losing one was a loss. Innate ability, Dragon Roar. Longao wanted to end the battle quickly. In order to quickly finish off Chungbo, which was within 3 moves, he directly used Dragon Roar. Innate ability? Seeing that Longao's innate divine ability was so powerful, everyone got a huge shock. Just from the aura of the innate ability, Longao's innate ability was enough to show how powerful it was. Chungbo was also shocked. Taking 3 steps back, Chungbo did not dare to be careless and also released his innate ability. Chungbo's innate ability was very special. It was a buff to his physical body, which meant that when he released his innate ability, his physical defense would increase by 3 times. What kind of concept was that? Among the great emperors of the same level, there were very few who could be Chungbo's opponent. However, at this moment, Chungbo encountered Longao, a monstrous genius, a battle maniac who was not afraid of any battle. The flow of the surrounding space was instantly stopped. Chung Bo was stunned because he never thought that his opponent's innate ability would be so powerful. It could actually change the flow of the surrounding space and even lock onto his body. One should know that their strength was a whole level apart. Under normal circumstances, a purple grade Great Emperor would not be a match for a black grade Great Emperor. However, the situation was completely reversed. Longao did not give up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because he knew that with his current strength, even if he used his innate ability, he could only lock onto Chung Bo for 2 seconds at most. Therefore, he could not afford to waste any time. The Emperor Dragon's 9 fatal strikes and the 36 thunder styles had already merged. However, at this moment, Longao did not use his sword chi. Instead, he merged the 2 sword techniques into his fist and violently smashed it towards Chung Bo. The roar of a dragon and the sound of thunder continued to resound, intertwining with each other. Fist after fist, the power stacked layer by layer. The 2 fists fiercely collided. Under the stacked layers of Longao's fist force, the power was not as simple as 1 plus 1. Boom! With a loud bang, Chung Bo's body was directly smashed away. This was because Longao had already held back. Otherwise, just this punch alone would have been enough to smash Chung Bo to death. No matter what, this was a Long family after all. A challenge was a challenge. If someone died, it would be difficult to clean up the mess. Because of this, Longao only used 80% of his strength in this punch. Even so, Chung Bo's body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. He fell heavily on the ground and made a close contact with the ground. Defeated? Defeated in 2 moves? Everyone looked at Chung Bo, who was slowly crawling up from the ground. They were all dumbfounded. Until now, no one knew how Longao did it. This Motherf asterisk Kerr really has a trump card. No wonder this person is so arrogant. In the beginning, no one believed that Longao had defeated Chung Bo in 3 moves. However, the truth was right in front of them. Even if they were unwilling to believe it, they could only accept it. Longao, you've won, Chung Bo said with difficulty. He tried his best to endure the pain that came from his body. He wished he could find a mouse hole to hide in. It would be fine if he lost to a high-level Great Emperor, but now, he lost to a mere purple grade Great Emperor. Where was his face? Clapping his hands, Long Chen echoed, I agree with what you said. Longao, you're already ranked 49th on the dragon ranking. That's pretty impressive. Work hard and try to challenge the top 20 people within 3 years. At that time, once you succeed, you'll be heavily nurtured by the Long family. At that time, you'll receive the best resources. Longao already knew about this. Long Chen, I want to ask you, what's the strength of the current 20th on the dragon ranking? Long Chen was not a fool. When he heard Longao's question, he asked in shock, Longao, what do you mean by that? Could it be that you want to challenge the 20th on the dragon ranking? Although Long Chen trusted Longao, Longao could defeat Chung Bo. His strength was already there. However, was it possible for him to challenge the top 20 of the dragon ranking? With one glance, Xiao Chun could tell what Long Chen was thinking. Longao smiled and said, Don't worry. I'm not challenging you. I'm just asking casually. I'm mentally prepared. So, that's how it is. Long Chen let out a long sigh of relief and said, I've already asked. The current 20th on the dragon ranking should be a titled Great Emperor. Titled Great Emperor? That is to say, the top 19 on the dragon ranking should be at least demigod. That's right. You can say that. Although Longao had already guessed it, he still sighed. This was the Long family, as expected of one of the 10 directions. Just the top 19 on the dragon ranking were all at least demigod. Longao was almost certain that the top 10 on the dragon ranking were all divine Tao cultivators. There was no doubt about that. Furthermore, the first on the dragon ranking, Long Bo, was above the divine Tao, the so-called supreme divine Tao, the sword demon's soul slave. The first thing that Longao thought of was the sword demon's soul slave. According to what Long Fu said, the newly refined sword demon's soul slave could completely block one move from a divine Tao cultivator. Even if it was a supreme divine Tao cultivator, it could still forcibly block one move. After one move, it would be up to fate. If he was lucky, it would be like the last time, and he would smoothly pass the crisis. If he was unlucky, he would report to the king of hell. However, the power of the sword demon's soul slave was very strong. It might not be able to kill a demigod, but it was more than enough to defeat a titled great emperor and below. If he relied on the sword demon's soul slave to defeat the 20th on the dragon ranking, wouldn't he be able to be ranked 20th? At that time, he would be able to obtain better resources from the Long family. He believed that his cultivation would also advance by leaps and bounds. Sometimes, no one would care about the process. Everyone only cared about the result. No matter what method you used, as long as you defeated the opponent, you would be the winner. As the saying goes, the winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. This was an unchanging principle. Longao, you don't really want to challenge the 20th on the dragon ranking, do you? Seeing Longao's faint smile, Long Chun was shocked. Before Long Chun could say anything, Longao suddenly asked, Long Chun, there is something I am curious about. Long family's disciples should all have the surname Long. Why is Chungbo not only allowed to stay in the Long family, but also allowed to enter the dragon ranking? Seeing that Longao had made up his mind, Long Chun sighed deeply in his heart. He didn't try to persuade him because he knew very well that with Longao's character, he wouldn't act recklessly if he didn't have absolute confidence. Although he had 10,000 doubts in his heart, at this time, he could only choose to believe. Longao, there is something you do not know. Although Chungbo is not an orthodox disciple of the Long family, his mother is a disciple of the Long family. Moreover, Chungbo's father has made great contributions to the family. Therefore, the patriarch has specially ordered that not only can Chungbo stay in the Long family, but he can also enter the dragon ranking. With Chungbo's talent and strength, he can be considered to have some strength. Longao nodded. Of course, he knew Chungbo's strength better than Long Chun. After all, he had just fought with Chungbo. If it was not for his innate ability, Dragon Roar, Longao believed that with Chungbo's strength and innate ability, it would be hard for him to find a worthy opponent among martial artists of the same rank. Chapter 1043. Long Family. Inside the secret chamber, Long Hang's face was extremely gloomy as he slammed his fist on the wall. Longao defeated Chungbo, and Long Hang felt very uncomfortable, because everyone in the Long family knew that Chungbo was the great elder's man. Who would dare to challenge Chungbo? Although Chungbo's father was helpful to the Long family, Chungbo was still an outsider. It was already incredible that he could stay in the Long family and chase after the dragon rankings. But even so, an outsider was still an outsider. How could Chungbo have a smooth journey? Many people were unhappy that an outsider had occupied the 49th place on the dragon rankings for a long time. But no one dared to challenge Chungbo. The reason was simple. Chungbo had the great elder, Long Hang. It was a secret, but everyone knew that Chungbo was actually Long Hang's grandson. Longao publicly challenged Chungbo and defeated him in 2 moves. Before he left, he even said that he had miscalculated. He did not take the great elder seriously at all. It was simply unbearable. Even if the secret chamber could tolerate it, the chrysanthemum could not. Longao, you are too arrogant. Long Hang's lips slowly curled into a cold smile. As the great elder of the Long family, it was as easy as crushing an ant if he wanted to kill someone, even if the other party was the patriarch's man. Man, great elder, what are your orders? The voice was extremely cold, as if it came from hell. Lure Longao into the Dragon Valley. Kill him. Yes, great elder. The secret chamber returned to silence. Long Hang stood alone in the secret chamber, his eyes shooting out cold, murderous intent. The night was exceptionally quiet. The stars in the sky shone on every corner of the Long family. In the courtyard, Longao did not rest, nor did he cultivate. Instead, he stood alone under the stars of the 9 heavens, staring at the pitch-black night sky. At this moment, in Longao's mind, he thought of his grandfather, his parents, his lover, his brothers, his friends, everything. Ever since he had entered the martial heaven continent, half a year had passed. His strength had increased, but in the martial heaven continent, Where experts were as common as trees in a forest, his strength was far from enough. It was precisely because of this. Longao asked himself. He didn't dare to stop, because once he stopped, he didn't know if he would fall to the ground and never get up again. This was reality. This was a dog-eat-dog world. There was no way to make the world fit you. You could only slowly adapt to this world. And the only way to adapt to this world was to constantly cultivate and increase your strength. Longao, have you thought about your background? Background? Upon hearing Xilin's words, Longao felt a little dizzy. He didn't know what Xiling meant by asking this at this time. Could it be that there was something wrong with his background? All this time. Chapter 1044. From what Xiling had said, Longao had already guessed a little. It seemed that he was still a frog at the bottom of a well. He still didn't know enough about the Tianwu continent. Xiling had already said that the martial artist who sealed him had to be above the heavenly Tao. What kind of concept was that? Without a doubt, this person was definitely a martial artist at the peak of the martial Tao. Silence. Xiling and Bai Ling didn't say anything. Time passed slowly. Xiling and Bai Ling didn't say anything, and Longao didn't urge them either. About an hour later. Young Master Long, we have no comment. There was no anger. Longao was very clear that in the end, it was because he wasn't strong enough and didn't have the right to know. If his cultivation had already broken through the peak of the martial Tao, would Xiling and Bai Ling still say that? He didn't continue asking. Even if he did, it would be a waste of time. It was better not to ask. Longao's face turned cold. He was already a little unhappy when he talked about the mystery of his birth. Now that there were a few uninvited guests, Longao's unhappiness instantly shifted. Want to leave? Without guessing, Longao already knew who the other party was. If people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. If people offended him, he would return the favor twofold. That was right. Longao used spatial teleportation to shoot in the direction where the aura disappeared. Both parties were very fast. Gradually, Longao began to realize that something was wrong. Longao was very confident in his speed. Even if a titled Great Emperor came personally, he might not be able to match his speed. Since that was the case, the other party's speed was so fast. Could it be that the other party was a demigod martial artist? Or a supreme Tao martial artist? Longao was a little afraid. He was very confident in his own strength, but Longao knew his own limits. Even if he had the sword demon as his sole slave, he could at most withstand one attack from a demigod martial artist. But what about after that? It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid of Long Hang. In any case, Long Hang was the great elder of the Long family. Whether it was status or strength, they were all there. If Long Hang sent a demigod or a divine way martial artist to deal with him, how would he deal with it? Longao had already chosen to give up the chase. But at this moment, a terrifying force shot over. If Longao hadn't dodged quickly, he believed that just this alone would have been enough to take his life. If you don't come, Long Chun will definitely die. Longao was almost certain that the other party had deliberately lured him here. Furthermore, the other party's strength was very powerful. If he wasn't a demigod martial artist, then he was a divine way martial artist. Longao had already given up, but Long Chen's name made it so that he had no choice but to continue chasing. Even though he knew there was danger, he still continued. It was like knowing there was a tiger in the mountain, but he still continued chasing. Longao treated Long Chun as a true friend. How could he not go when his friend was in trouble? Just like this, Longao kept chasing. Unknowingly, both parties had already arrived at the back mountain of the Long family. It could be considered the border of the Long family. In the valley, black fog lingered, and one couldn't see the end of it. Before Longao could observe the surrounding environment, the voice came again. For the sake of his friend, Longao did not think too much and continued to chase. Not long later, he had already left the valley and entered a dense forest. It was boundless, and waves of dragon breath constantly brushed past. It was very terrifying, and it was even oppressed to the point that it was a little difficult to breathe. Dragon tribe? Longao instantly understood what had happened. because according to the powerful aura that the other party was emitting, it was more than enough to deal with him. However, from the beginning to the end, the other party didn't make a move. What did this mean? There was no doubt about it. Long Hang wanted to kill with a borrowed knife. He wanted to lure him into the Dragon Valley and then use the giant dragon's hands to kill him. If that was the case, then even if he died, the responsibility wouldn't be Long Hang's, but the Dragon Tribe's. At that time, Long Hang could even accuse him of trespassing on the Dragon Tribe. Anyway, he was already dead. The dead couldn't testify. Who would dare to stand up for him? After all, Long Hang's identity was there. What a shameless Long Hang. Longao didn't continue to sense the other party's presence because he already understood what had happened. As for Long Chun, if there were no accidents, he believed that Long Chun wasn't captured at all. In other words, Long Chun wasn't in danger. In any case, Longao was relieved that Long Chun wasn't in danger. Dragon Tribe. Longao wasn't unfamiliar with the Dragon Tribe because this was his second time entering the Dragon Tribe. The last time, he secretly entered the Dragon Tribe. Not only did he see the legendary Dragon Tribe, but he also got the little guy Long Chong. It was like killing two birds with one stone. Not daring to be careless, Longao was careful and focused 120%. If Long Hang wanted him dead, he wouldn't die. He would anger that old bastard to death. The Dragon Tribe and the Long family were one of the 10 major powers. The entire Martial Heaven continent knew that 50% of the reason the Long family was able to become one of the 10 major powers was due to the Dragon Tribe. If the Dragon Tribe didn't exist, would the Long family be able to contend against the other 9 major powers just by relying on themselves? There was no suspense. The Dragon Tribe was the strongest spirit beast race in the world. They stood at the top of the pyramid, on par with the Phoenix Tribe and the Chilan Tribe. As the headquarters of the Dragon Tribe, Longao didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. If he was discovered by the Dragon Tribe, without the Long family's permission, it would be considered trespassing. At that time, even if the Dragon Tribe's patriarch wanted to help him, it wouldn't be easy. Powerful dragon auras were everywhere. Before Longao had time to think about how to leave the Dragon Tribe and secretly return to the Long family, Long Fu's voice rang out. Master, since you've already entered the Dragon Tribe, let's take advantage of this opportunity to awaken the 2 little fellows. Longao, who was originally very cautious, was overjoyed when he heard Long Fu's words. Previously, the 2 little fellows had burned their origin souls, causing them to be unconscious. Longao had always felt very guilty, so he had always been thinking about this matter. As long as there was a chance, even if there was a mountain of blades and a sea of flames in front of him, he would still barge in. Long Fu, how can I awaken the 2 little fellows? Master, follow my senses. But you have to be careful. The place we're heading to is the Dragon Tribe's Forbidden Land. If you're not careful, you'll be discovered by the Dragon Tribe. Long Fu did not continue speaking, but the meaning of his words was already very clear. How could Long Ao not know Long Fu's meaning? Without the slightest hesitation, he followed Long Fu's senses to the southwest. Long Ao's speed was very fast. He was a bit impatient. P.S. I had some things to do yesterday. I'll try to write more chapters today. For chapters first. Chapter 1045. Long Ao realized that Long Fu was very familiar with the Dragon Clan. It was as if his master had returned to his home, but after thinking about it, he felt relieved. Long Fu's previous master was the primordial divine dragon, the ancestor of the Dragon Tribe. Within the Dragon Clan, at the peak of the mountain, Long Di Tion's figure suddenly appeared. "Old brother, what do you want from me? Can Long Ao really help us survive the 10,000-year catastrophe?" Long Di Tion's dragon companion was the Dragon Clan's patriarch, the heavenly divine dragon. Therefore, Long Di Tion was very concerned about the life and death of the Dragon Clan, because he knew very well that once the Dragon Clan was destroyed, the Long family would also suffer. "I don't know, but I choose to believe in the oracle." How could the 9 firmaments divine dragon not know what the divine mathematician meant? Without continuing to dwell on this issue, the 9 firmaments divine dragon sighed deeply and said helplessly, The whereabouts of the divine dragon pearl are still unknown. As long as the divine dragon pearl is not found, my heart will never be at peace. The divine dragon pearl was the most valuable treasure of the dragon clan. According to the rules of the dragon clan, every generation's dragon clan patriarch had to refine the divine dragon pearl. Only in the hands of the 9 firmaments divine dragon, the divine dragon pearl was suddenly lost, and its whereabouts were unknown. However, in order to protect his position, the 9 firmaments divine dragon did not speak of this matter from beginning to end. The 9 heavens divine dragon's worry was very simple. That was, if a clansman found the divine dragon pearl and refined it, the consequences would be unimaginable. I'll do my best. Dtion, I don't know why, but I keep having a bad premonition. Back then, the 2 old ancestors fought against the heavenly Tao and eventually died. However, the heavenly Tao has never made a move. I'm very worried that the heavenly Tao can no longer wait. How could Long Dtion not know about his old brother's worries? I hope it's not too late. Dtion, why don't we take a risk? If we succeed in absorbing the source energy, we'll be able to reach the pinnacle of the martial way. With the 2 of us working together, killing the heavenly Tao will be a piece of cake. Long Dtion had already thought about what the 9 firmaments divine dragon had said countless times. All these years, Long Dtion had wanted to take the risk more than once, but his rationality told him that he could not do so unless he was completely confident. Otherwise, once he was caught by the heavenly Tao, the consequences would be unimaginable. The power of origin was the key to reaching the pinnacle of martial arts. The 2 of them also knew that all the core energy of the martial heaven continent was in the hands of the heavenly Das. Would the heavenly Tao agree? We'll talk about this later. Brother, I've come to you mainly because of Longao. What happened? The 9 firmaments divine dragon did not put Longao in his eyes at all. Could Longao help the dragon race solve the 10,000-year catastrophe? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he absolutely did not believe it. In 3 days, Longao will enter the ancestral hall to awaken his bloodline a second time. Once he succeeds, I hope that he can enter the dragon clan and become one with the dragon. Hearing Long Dtion's words, the 9 firmaments divine dragon was shocked. Dtion, you should know how scarce the resources are when it comes to becoming one with the dragon. Is Longao qualified? Old brother, we can only take a gamble. Now that things had come to this point, even if the 9 heavens divine dragon was extremely unwilling, he did not continue to say anything. For the sake of a spot, if he were to fall out with Dtion, it would not be worth it. At the peak of the mountain, the 9 firmaments divine dragon and Long Dtion did not speak anymore. Following Long Fu's senses, Longao rushed to the dragon clan's forbidden grounds as fast as he could. According to Long Fu's words, there were many powerful dragons guarding the forbidden grounds of the dragon clan. They could not be discovered, otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the dense forest, the surroundings were covered by ancient towering trees, and even the sun could not shine in. Longao did not continue forward and hid his aura. Long Fu, is the forbidden grounds of the dragon clan in front? That's right. Master, you must be careful. I just sensed that there are at least 8 divine dragons guarding the forbidden grounds of the dragon clan. Of course, Longao knew what divine dragons meant. 8 divine dragons were equivalent to 8 divine warriors. With such powerful existences, it was indeed impossible for him to enter the forbidden grounds of the dragon clan without anyone noticing. Long Fu, how should we enter the forbidden grounds of the dragon clan? Longao was very clear that it was extremely difficult to lure the 8 divine dragons away. Xiling and Bai Ling definitely could not do it. As for Long Fu, it was the same. In this case, what should he do? Master, we can only choose to lure them away. This method again. Master, I have already thought of a way. With the speed of the blood pool weapon spirit, it is the best choice. Little guy? After thinking about it, Longao also felt that this method was feasible. This was because he had seen the speed of the little guy with his own eyes. Even he might not be able to catch up to the little guy with the help of spatial teleportation. One could imagine how fast the little guy was. Longao summoned the little mouse and tried to communicate for a while. The little guy was very straightforward and immediately nodded in agreement. The little mouse rushed out with a swoosh. Chapter 1046. The little mouse returned in failure. Longao was helpless. He knew that the blood and divine soul in the forbidden land of the dragon clan could help the little guy regain consciousness, but he could not force himself to do so. Fire dragon? Suddenly, Longao thought of Fire Dragon. When he first entered the dragon clan, he met the little guy in the hands of Fire Dragon. At that time, Fire Dragon seemed to be friendly to him and said that he was a member of the dragon clan. At that time, he did not know what was going on. Now, Longao had guessed it. If there was no accident, Fire Dragon should have sensed the aura of the immemorial divine dragon. Otherwise, he would have died at that time and would not have waited until now. Thinking of this, Longao could only choose Fire Dragon's help. Just by relying on Longao's senses, it was impossible to find the Fire Dragon in the shortest amount of time. However, Long Fu was different. Relying on the previous Fire Dragon's aura, he had already locked onto the location of the Fire Dragon in just a few minutes. It was still in the huge cave. Fire Dragon, who was sleeping soundly, suddenly sensed the aura of a human and was instantly enraged.
Scram.
Before Scram finished speaking, Fire Dragon had already opened its big eyes and stared at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of it. His strength had increased, but his aura did not change at all.
Master.
He waved his hand. Since the Fire Dragon knew him, everything would be easy. Longao did not explain the situation. Since Fire Dragon recognized him as its master, then he believed that he would have a smooth journey in the Dragon Clan. Fire Dragon, I want to enter the forbidden land of the Dragon Clan now. Do you have any good ideas? Fire Dragon was startled when it heard this. Master, the forbidden land of the Dragon Clan. Unless the clan leader personally comes, no one is allowed to take a step in. If you force your way in, you will be killed immediately. As expected, Longao had already expected this result. The forbidden land of the Dragon Clan contained the blood and divine soul of the immemorial divine dragon. This was the most important and precious thing for the Dragon Clan. How could the Dragon Clan be careless? Fire Dragon's cultivation had reached the divine path realm. Even so, it still could not enter the forbidden land. Knowing that it was impossible, Longao still chose to enter for the little guy. Fire Dragon, I must get it. The Fire Dragon lowered its head and began to ponder. After an unknown period of time, the Fire Dragon suddenly said, Master, if you really want to enter the dragon's forbidden area, there is only one way. Even so, it is very dangerous. He was not afraid of danger. With a resolute face, Longao nodded and said, Tell me, what is it? Master, with all due respect, you can use the old ancestor's aura to suppress the 10 guardians. When the time comes, you can take advantage of the chaos to enter the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. This is very risky, but it's the only way. So that was the case. Longao already understood what Hualong meant. In the end, it was to borrow the aura of the primordial divine dragon and take advantage of the chaos to enter the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. Just as Hualong had said, doing this was extremely dangerous, and the slightest carelessness would cause them to fall into eternal damnation. Master, as a member of the Dragon Clan, I can't go to the Dragon Clan's forbidden area with you. I hope you can forgive me. Longao nodded. How could he not know about Hualong's difficulties? It was precisely because of this that Longao did not continue to stay. Because the situation had already reached this point, he could only choose the method Hualong had mentioned. Although it was dangerous, Long Chang's recovery was the most important. After leaving the cave, Longao returned to the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. Long Fu, how much aura can we mobilize? This was the most important thing because Longao knew very well that once the primordial divine dragon's aura reappeared in the Dragon Clan, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. After all, the primordial divine dragon was the Dragon Clan's old ancestor. He had already fallen countless years ago. What did it mean for his aura to suddenly reappear? Since things had already reached this point, Longao knew that he had no other choice. Master, there is no problem with the old master's aura. However, you must be prepared. You must not be locked onto, otherwise. Long Fu did not finish his words, but the meaning in his words was very clear. He took a deep breath. Since he had to do it anyway, he might as well do it sooner rather than later. Long Fu, let's go. As soon as Long Ao finished speaking, a terrifying dragon's aura came out and suppressed the sky and earth. It was as if the entire world was suppressing them. There was no need to say more about its power. As the most powerful dragon in the history of the Dragon Clan, the primordial divine dragon's aura alone was not an existence that ordinary people could contend with. As expected, the primordial divine dragon's aura came overwhelming. The 8 dragons were shocked to the extreme. It was as if they had seen a ghost during the day. They stood there in a daze, not knowing what was going on. The old ancestor's aura? As everyone knew, the primordial divine dragon had fallen countless years ago. The only bloodline and divine soul left behind was also sealed in the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. Since that was the case, why would the old ancestor's aura suddenly appear here? The aura disappeared and headed towards the southeast. Under normal circumstances, the 8 dragons would definitely not all chase because they only had one duty, which was to guard the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. No matter what happened, they could not leave. But now, the situation was different. The sudden arrival of the old ancestor's aura was a top priority for the Dragon Clan. Even if the clan leader was here, he would probably do the same. Because of that, the 8 dragons looked at each other. Without the slightest hesitation, all of them chased after the old ancestor's aura with all their might. Seeing all the divine dragons chasing after the old ancestor, Long Ao was overjoyed. With the help of spatial teleportation, his body disappeared and reappeared in the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. According to Long Fu's guidance, Long Ao successfully opened the passage and entered the black stairs. Underground? Long Ao walked down the stairs step by step. Although he had successfully lured all the divine dragons away, he was still cautious because he did not know if there was any danger in the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. As the saying goes, caution is the parent of safety. It was pitch black, and he did not know when it would end. Long Ao walked for dozens of minutes before he could barely see a trace of light. Overjoyed, Long Ao quickened his pace. In a short while, he entered a huge cave. The entire cave was open air. Sunlight shone down and shone on every corner of the cave. Although the cave was huge, it could be seen at a glance. Just as Long Fu said, there was a medium-sized blood pool in the cave. There was a lot of dragon blood in it. It was the blood of the primordial divine dragon. As for the divine soul, Long Ao did not need to look for it. He could already sense that the primordial divine dragon's divine soul was also in the blood pool. He came to the side of the blood pool. Long Fu, what should I do now? Master, put the little guy in the blood pool. I believe the little guy will take care of the rest. You just have to wait and see. Chapter 1047. Wait and see. Long Ao slowly carried the little guy out of the dragon seal space. According to Long Fu's instructions, Long Ao slowly placed the little guy's body into the blood pool. Whether Long Chong could use the blood in the blood pool and his divine soul to recover and wake up would depend on Long Chong. Long Fu, if I put Long Ming into the blood pool, wouldn't it have the same effect? Of the 2 little guys, only one was taken care of. Long Ao was very anxious about the remaining one. He couldn't wait for both of them to recover and wake up. Master, the old master's blood and divine soul are only useful to Long Chong. As for Long Ming, we have to think of another way. He sighed deeply. Since that was the case, he could only wait and see. No matter what, he had to take care of Long Chong first. It was a relief. Long Ao didn't dare to relax at all. He guarded the blood pool and waited quietly. The 8 dragons chased after the primordial divine dragon's aura. In just a few minutes, the aura had disappeared without a trace. The sudden appearance of the old ancestor's aura was a big deal. Without any hesitation, the 8 dragons immediately reported the matter to the clan leader. In the Dragon Clan, are you sure that it's the old ancestor's aura? Even the nine firmaments divine dragon was shocked after hearing the news, because everyone knew that the old ancestor had fallen for countless years. Such a situation had never happened before. What happened? Clan leader, we can be sure that this aura belongs to the old ancestor. Follow me. The nine firmaments divine dragon brought the 8 dragons to the dragon clan's forbidden area. They began to carefully observe the surroundings, trying to find clues. But the final result? They found nothing. The nine firmaments divine dragon knew very well that the 8 of them couldn't fool him. If that was the case, what happened? Wait here. I'll go to the forbidden area to take a look. Yes, clan leader. The nine firmaments divine dragon disappeared. Inside the cave, Longao, who was guarding the cave, suddenly had a change in expression. He did not dare to hesitate and immediately entered the dragon seal space. In the next second, the nine firmaments divine dragon had already appeared in the cave. There was no movement in the cave. Even in the blood pool, Long Chang's body had disappeared. At the critical moment, the nine firmaments divine dragon had already transformed into his human form. He stared at the cave, which was the so-called forbidden area of the dragon clan. He didn't know why, but he always felt that something was wrong. Why would the aura of the old ancestor, who had been dead for countless years, suddenly appear? Why did the old ancestor's aura not appear anywhere but in the forbidden land? Could it be the grand ancestor's spirit? Regarding the path of reincarnation, the nine heavens divine dragon naturally knew that once one's cultivation broke through to the supreme Tao realm, one could forcefully enter the path of reincarnation after death. If one's luck was good and the reincarnation was successful, one could be reborn. There was only a 1 in 10,000 chance of samsara succeeding. Arriving at the side of the blood pool, the nine firmaments divine dragon looked at the blood pool that was close at hand. He did not say anything and just stared at it. Inside the dragon seal space, Longao could clearly sense that the expert who suddenly came in from outside was the dragon clan's patriarch, the nine heavens divine dragon, who he had met once before. He was extremely nervous because Longao did not know if the nine heavens divine dragon had already discovered Long Chang. If he had really discovered him, then even if he had to risk his life, he would forcefully go out and find Long Chang. In a moment of life and death. Master, the nine heavens divine dragon did not seem to have discovered the little fellow's aura. Nodding his head, Longao also knew about this point. If the nine heavens divine dragon had already discovered the little fellow, he would have already made his move and would not still be standing by the blood pool. Long Fu, the nine heavens divine dragon, is also in the nirvana realm? Seeing Long Fu nod his head, Longao was not surprised. The dragon clan's patriarch should be one of the strongest experts in the world. Not only was he in the nirvana realm, the nine heavens divine dragon was probably already infinitely close to the peak of martial arts. With such a super existence, Longao knew his own limits. Standing in front of the nine heavens divine dragon, he did not even have the chance to make his move. The chi of heaven and earth condensed, and the nirvana rebirth was set. Even if he had already condensed the chi of heaven and earth, under normal circumstances, he would definitely break through to the nirvana realm in the future. However, no one knew how long he would have to wait. Standing quietly in the dragon seal space, Longao looked very calm, but his heart was in turmoil. Inside the cave, the blood pool in the center suddenly began to churn. Rumble, it was like boiling water. The blood bubbles continued to rise. Not to mention going down to try, just looking at the churning blood bubbles in the blood pool was enough to make one's heart ache. The nine heavens divine dragon, who was preparing to leave, saw this situation and his face changed slightly. Who is it? Show yourself. The nine heavens divine dragon had already guessed that there must be someone in the blood pool. Thinking of the aura that appeared before, the nine heavens divine dragon even suspected that the movement in the blood pool was caused by the old ancestor. The aura descended once again. Chapter 1048. In the end, the nine heavens divine dragon obediently left the forbidden land of the dragon clan. The cave fell into silence once again. In the dragon seal space, even though the nine heavens divine dragon had left, Longao did not go out immediately because he was not sure if the voice in the blood pool came from the primordial divine dragon. Could it be that the primordial divine dragon was really reincarnated? It seemed a little unlikely. However, the primordial divine dragon had completely disappeared in the dragon seal space. Based on that situation, it was almost impossible for the primordial divine dragon to reincarnate. Big brother, it's me. Hearing the voice coming from the blood pool, Longao was immediately overjoyed. Without continuing to stay in the dragon seal space, Longao's body had already appeared in the cave. Little guy, is that you? Big brother, I'm fine. I was just scaring the old guy. Old guy. If the divine dragon of the 9 heavens was here and heard Long Chong's words, he wondered if he would be angered to death. Moreover, the divine dragon of the 9 heavens had always thought that the old ancestor had reincarnated, but he did not expect that he had been fooled by this matter. How do you feel? The little guy was awake and scared the 9 heavens divine dragon away. Longao was pleasantly surprised. Ever since the 2 little guys burned their life essence, Longao had always felt guilty. Now, Long Chong had improved, but Long Ming had not. Big brother, wait a moment. When I finish absorbing the blood and soul here, I believe that not only will I recover, but it will also bring unexpected benefits to my strength. Longao did not continue speaking. He did not want to disturb Long Chong. If he missed such a rare opportunity, even he would despise himself. The cave calmed down again. Outside the forbidden land of the Dragon Clan, seeing the clan leader suddenly appear, the 8 divine dragons asked impatiently, "Clan leader, is there a problem?" Until now, the 8 divine dragons still could not believe that the old ancestor's aura suddenly appeared. There must be something fishy about it. He waved his hand. Of course, the 9 heavens divine dragon would not reveal the truth. He said calmly, "That's all for now. Remember, do not leak this matter. Otherwise, kill without mercy." Yes, Patriarch. Looking at the gradually disappearing silhouette, the 8 divine dragons looked at each other and saw some clues from each other's eyes. It seemed that the clan chief had discovered something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such a thing. Could it be that the old ancestor had really reincarnated? At the thought of this, the 8 divine dragons could not hide the joy on their faces because they knew very well what it meant for their ancestor to reincarnate. Long family. Inside the secret chamber. Great Elder, Longao has been successfully lured into the Dragon Clan. We are also guarding outside. Longao has not come out yet. Hearing this, Longhang finally smiled. Without the permission of a Long family, entering the Dragon Clan without permission would mean certain death if discovered by the Dragon Clan. This move of using someone else to do the dirty work could be considered very successful. Humph. Once we confirm that Longao has trespassed into the Dragon Clan, I would like to see how the clan leader will deal with the aftermath. Great Elder, when do we make our move? 3 days later. Longhang had already thought about it. 3 days later, when Longao was about to enter the ancestral hall, he would appear to inform the family of this matter and question the clan leader in person. Although he knew that this would not be able to topple the clan leader, he could still deal a blow to him. He had to admit that Longhang was indeed very shameless. He wanted to use Longao to trespass into the Dragon Clan and attack the clan leader. Longao was also a fish in the moat. Longao was still unaware of Longhang's shamelessness. In the cave, Longao sat quietly beside the blood pool, waiting for the little guy to absorb the blood and spirit in the pool. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. Longao was a little anxious, because tomorrow at this time, it was time to enter the ancestral hall. If he did not appear on time, would he lose this opportunity? The second bloodline awakening in the ancestral hall was very important. Not to mention whether he could reproduce the golden body of the divine dragon. The second bloodline awakening alone would transform his divine ability. Whether his divine ability Dragon Roar would become more powerful would depend on the extent of the bloodline awakening. If it was an ordinary matter, Longao certainly would not choose to give up so easily. Only Long Chong. Longao had already decided that even if he had to give up on entering the ancestral hall to awaken his bloodline a second time, he would not hesitate. Standing up, Longao began to observe the cave. Long Fu, does the primordial divine dragon still have a chance to be reincarnated? Longao had always had this question because the strength of Long Tian and the primordial divine dragon was obvious. Even if they had been defeated back then, they would not have disappeared. Although the two of them were arrogant, they were not fools. It was impossible for them not to leave a way out for themselves. Master, I don't know the answer to this question. At the same time, I also want to know the answer. Long Fu, if it's possible, if Long Tian or the primordial divine dragon were to be reincarnated, which one would you choose? Of course it would be you, Master. Was it really him? Long Ao did not continue asking, because if Long Tian or the primordial divine dragon were to be reincarnated, it was still unknown who Long Fu would choose. Long Ao really did not like this feeling. Until now, he was still under the control of Long Fu. Tightly clenching his fists, Long Ao kept telling himself that one day, he would make Long Fu obedient. What old master? What choice? It was all bullshit. Every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Long Ao didn't think that he was that great. With the dragon seal space being so powerful, it would be a lie to say that he didn't have any greed in his heart. Not to mention others, even he himself wouldn't believe it. Young Master Long, there's something I want to tell you, but I don't know if I should say it. Hearing Bai Ling's words, Long Ao seemed a little surprised, because Bai Ling had never acted like this in such a long time. Could it be that something really happened? If you have something to say, just say it. Sister, are you really going to tell him? Hearing Xilin's words, Long Ao became even more curious. He did not know what Xiling and Bai Ling were planning. Long Ao did not say anything, but Bai Ling said, Sister, since things have already reached this point, young Master Long has the right to know. Xiling did not say anything else, but her meaning was very clear. Young Master Long, do you know his identity? Bai Ling, who is this he that you're talking about? Long Ao was a little curious. He did not know who Bai Ling was referring to. Could it be Long Chong? Young Master Long, your guess was right. Your dragon companion's identity is not simple. So it really was Long Chong. Long Ao did not know about Long Chong's identity. He only knew that Long Chong had obtained 100 drops of dragon blood. Once he refined and merged them, he would transform into an ancient divine dragon. According to Long Fu, the ancient divine dragon was in existence above the primordial divine dragon. Chapter 1049. Bai Ling. If the little guy can absorb 100 drops of dragon blood, he will transform into an ancient divine dragon. Next, Long Ao didn't hide anything and told her everything about the little guy. After listening, Bai Ling was silent for a while, then sighed. Bai Ling, what's wrong? Young Master Long, the so-called ancient divine dragon is just a superficial transformation. I'm talking about the little guy's background. Background? Long Ao knew very well that Bai Ling wouldn't speak so rashly if she wasn't sure. Bai Ling, what's the little guy's background? Long Ao, let me tell you that your dragon companion doesn't belong to the dragon clan. Damn it, he cursed in his heart. Long Ao never thought that Long Chong didn't belong to the dragon clan. What does that mean? This completely overturned Long Ao's understanding. Purple and white light flashed, then Xiling and Bai Ling appeared in the cave. Xiling, what's going on? He smiled. He had to admit that Xiling's beauty was rare in the world. Even Aoshue and Yuan couldn't compare to Xiling and Bai Ling. Long Ao, that's all I can say. Treat the little guy well. His background is not simple. Not qualified again. Long Ao was a little helpless and a little depressed. This was the result of not being strong enough. He didn't even have the right to know some things. If he reached the Nirvana realm now, would Xiling still say that? Long Ao didn't continue to ask. Young Master Long, it's not that we don't want to tell you, but now is not the time. Nodding, Long Ao smiled and said, I understand. My strength is still not enough. Don't worry, I know my limits. When I am strong enough, I will ask you again. Bai Ling seemed to want to say something, but in the end, she swallowed her words. Long Ao, if it is possible, I hope that you can return to your family as soon as possible. I believe that you will find out what you want to know in your family.
Yes.
Until now, Long Ao still couldn't believe that his family had such a secret. It seemed that it was time for him to make a trip back to his family. Long Ao had already decided that once the matter of the Long family was resolved, he would leave the Martial Heaven continent and return to the 9 provinces to find out what he wanted to know. Young Master Long, there's one more thing that my sister and I would like to ask for your help. Please speak. Seeing Bai Ling's hesitant expression, Long Ao smiled and said, Bai Ling, no matter what it is, as long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Looking deeply at Long Ao, Bai Ling smiled. Glaring fiercely, Xiling said, Long Ao, don't worry. Since you helped us this time, we will repay you. Furthermore, you won't lose out this time. In fact, you will even gain some benefits. Just what was it? Young Master Long, I trust that you already know our identities. Our injuries are too heavy, and with the power of the seal, it is almost impossible for us to recover to our peak. We can only find a way to break through. How could Long Ao not know what Bai Ling was talking about? Whether it was Bai Ling or Xiling, they were both Jianling who had devoured their original bodies. They were very powerful. If it weren't for their injuries, he believed that Bai Ling and Xiling wouldn't be standing here. It could be said that fate was making fools of people. Please speak frankly. All right, since that's the case, I won't be polite. Long Ao, we need to use you as a medium to find a way to break through. This is very dangerous. If you're the slightest bit careless, you will vanish into thin air. You won't even have the chance to enter the reincarnation path. Long Ao didn't have the slightest reaction. He had already guessed that Bai Ling's hesitant expression meant that this matter wasn't simple. I want to know, what should I do? Although Long Ao didn't say it explicitly, the meaning behind his words was very clear. He was expressing his agreement. It's very simple. My sisters and my sword chi will enter your body. No matter when, just choose to ignore it. If an ordinary person had said this, Long Ao would have directly slapped them. Ignoring the sword chi entering one's body was akin to handing one's life over to the other party. Not to mention Long Ao. He believed that no matter who it was, they wouldn't agree to this. If it was just Xiling alone, Long Ao definitely wouldn't agree to it. But now, Bai Ling's participation made Long Ao ponder deeply. If Xiling were to harm him, he wouldn't even have the slightest chance to resist. He would only be at the mercy of Xiling. It was hard to know a person's heart. You could know a person's face, but not his heart. No one knew what would happen in the future. Xiling and Bai Ling also knew that it was a little difficult to ask, so the two Jianling didn't pursue the matter. For a moment, the entire cave fell into silence. Time passed bit by bit. After an unknown amount of time, Long Ao suddenly raised his head and said, I promise you. Xiling and Bai Ling were a little moved because they never thought that Long Ao would really agree to it. Especially Bai Ling. She seemed to feel sorry for Long Ao as her body trembled slightly. Long Ao, thank you. If there are any benefits, please remember me. Xiling and Bai Ling weren't fools. Of course, they knew that Long Ao was joking. Xiling nodded and said, Of course. Long Ao, your cultivation has already broken through to the beginner purple grade Great Emperor realm. In the remaining day, I can help your cultivation continue to rise and directly break through to the peak purple grade Great Emperor realm. Thank you. Although it was only a few ranks increase, Long Ao was still pleasantly surprised. This was because even if it was a rank increase, it wouldn't be easy to cultivate under normal circumstances. Sometimes, one rank increase would take an unknown amount of time. To be able to break through from the beginner purple grade Great Emperor realm to the peak purple grade Great Emperor realm in just one day was an incredible thing. Regardless of whether others believed it or not, Long Ao believed it. This was because he knew that Xiling wouldn't joke, especially about this kind of thing. In the following days, Long Ao began to cultivate and break through with Xiling's help. As for Long Chong, he continued to absorb the godly souls and blood in the blood pool. From the beginning to the end, the Dragon Tribe didn't know about this. If the Dragon Tribe or the Long family knew about this, who knew what they would think? The Dragon Tribe's forbidden area, not to mention Long Ao, even the Long family and the disciples of the Dragon Tribe couldn't enter without permission. Otherwise, they would be killed without mercy. The 3 days were up. Long family's ancestral hall would open once every month. Every time, 10 people could enter to awaken their bloodline. Among the 10 people, there were very few who could successfully awaken their bloodline and produce gifted superpowers. It could be said that it was 1 in 10,000. Long family disciples who could awaken their bloodline and produce gifted superpowers were pitifully few. Chapter 1050. Long Family. Outside the ancestral hall. Long family's ancestral hall was very big. It was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, and the scenery was very elegant. The 10 people who entered the ancestral hall this time, other than Longao, were all waiting outside the ancestral hall. Under normal circumstances, it was time to enter the ancestral hall. But now, the 9 of them could only wait bitterly because they were all waiting for one person, and that was Longao. They cursed in their hearts, making 9 people wait for one person. This had never happened in the history of the Long family. What was even more shocking was that, under normal circumstances, neither the Great Elder nor the Patriarch would appear in the ancestral hall. But at this moment, for some reason, the 2 strongest warriors of the Long family, who had the highest status, appeared outside the ancestral hall at the same time. Patriarch, Great Elder. Everyone bowed respectfully, and none of them dared to breathe loudly. Patriarch, it's time. Shouldn't we begin? Longhang obviously knew who the Patriarch was waiting for. It was because of this that he sneered in his heart. Longao had already entered the Dragon Clan, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. It would be difficult for him to appear. However, Longhang did not say this out loud. There had to be a beginning and an end to this. He waved his hand. Long Ditian was very curious. He did not know where Longao had gone. He knew Longao very well. With such a rare opportunity, he believed that Longao would not miss it easily. Could he be trapped? That shouldn't be the case. He did not receive any news. Something was wrong. Could it be Great Elder Longhang? For Long Ditian to be able to become the Patriarch of the Long family, he must have something extraordinary. Usually, Longhang would not appear here. Only this time, there was something fishy. He would not believe it even if he was beaten to death. Let's wait for Longao. Hearing the Patriarch's words, everyone was furious, but they did not dare to say anything. Who does Longao think he is? He actually wants us to wait. Himph, just because you defeated Chengbo, you think you're something? I'll teach you a lesson when we enter the ancestral hall. The 9 of them thought in their hearts. For some reason, the disciples who entered the ancestral hall were all black and white great emperors. It was as if it was premeditated. Putting aside the ordinary disciples, even the first elder, Longhang, dared not say anything after hearing the clan chief's words. Everyone knew that Longhang had always been at odds with the Patriarch, but no matter what, Long Ditian was still the Patriarch, and his status was there. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. The opportunity had come. Longhang, who had been silent all this time, suddenly stepped forward and said, "Patriarch, isn't it a little inappropriate for us to let the other 9 people wait here for one Longao?" The anger in the hearts of the 9 people had long reached the limit. It was just that due to the identity of the Patriarch, they did not dare to say much. The 9 of them were very grateful to the head elder in their hearts. That was because the way they saw it, the head elder was clearly thinking for them. However, the 9 of them were unable to understand that the head elder was only doing this for them, getting someone else to do the dirty work. Long Ditian snorted coldly in his heart. How could he not know what Longhang meant? Head elder, what do you mean? Patriarch, the clan has its rules. We have already waited for Longao for 2 hours. This is already against the clan's rules. If we continue to wait, I think it's unfair to the others. What do you think? The 9 of them lowered their heads and did not dare to speak. As for the surrounding disciples, they did not dare to speak either. What a joke. The person in front of them was the Patriarch of the clan. Going against the Patriarch would only result in death if they were tired of living. Wait for 2 more hours. Patriarch Longao is just a disciple of a low-ranked clan. What qualifications does he have to make others wait? Long Hang's words were obviously going against the patriarch. It was still the same sentence. Long Tian was the patriarch of a Long family. With his status, even the first elder had to be courteous to him. Since the patriarch had already said to wait for 2 more hours, this matter was already settled. However, Long Hang still insisted. What was the meaning of this? No one was a fool. Of course, they knew that Long Hang was purposely looking for trouble. None of them dared to speak. Whether it was the patriarch or the first elder, they were not existences that they could provoke. Head elder, I have already said to wait for 2 more hours. There was no sign of backing down. Long Hang said righteously, as the first elder of the clan, I will stand out to uphold justice whenever there is an unfair matter. Long Ao does not have the qualifications to make others wait. First elder, Long Ai shall be so bold as to ask you this. What qualifications do you possess to dare to challenge the clan chief here? Just as Long Tian was about to retaliate, a lazy voice came from afar. At this moment, a figure appeared. He was extremely fast and arrived in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. His blood-red hair danced wildly in the wind. His black clothes made him look like he came from hell. Long Ao's body emitted a powerful aura. He was not afraid of Long Hang's status. Instead, he had the urge to pounce on him. Long Ao. Looking at Long Ao, who had suddenly appeared, the 9 of them wanted to kill him. However, because the patriarch was in front of them, the 9 of them could only bear with it. Long Ao, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to the first elder like this? Lackey. Ignoring the other party's anger, Long Ao glared at Long Hang. He had already guessed that the person who had led him to the Dragon Clan was definitely Long Hang. He wanted to use the Dragon Clan to kill him. What a shameless Long Hang. Long family, the patriarch is the most important. Head elder, there is a difference in seniority. I hope you remember that. It had to be said that Long Ao was really shameless. Long Hang was about to say this, but he had taken the initiative. The first elder's face turned extremely ugly, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he did not care about seniority. If he wanted to convict Long Ao, wouldn't he have to convict himself first? Since Long Ao is here, the 10 of you can enter the ancestral hall. Remember, the time limit is 3 days. Regardless of whether you succeed or not, you must leave the ancestral hall. Otherwise, you will be killed. Yes, master. The 10 of them, including Long Ao, entered the ancestral hall one by one. Long Hang's heart was filled with killing intent. With his strength and status, killing Long Ao would be as easy as killing an ant. However, with the patriarch's interference, this matter became troublesome. In the end, Long Hang endured it. With his strength and status, it was too easy to kill Long Ao. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future. If this time did not work, he would try again next time. In the end, Long Tian and Long Hang did not speak. The 2 bosses disappeared at the same time, and the surrounding crowd gradually left. If they wanted to watch the show, they would have to wait at least 3 days. As for now, they did what they had to do. Under normal circumstances, if Long Ao fought against 9 people alone, it was unknown whether he could successfully awaken his bloodline, let alone kill all 9 of them. However, the 9 of them were too careless. Carelessness killed, arrogance killed. A white-grade great emperor martial artist was sliced into 2 by the sword Qi, and his blood flowed all over the ground. The remaining 8 people hurriedly retreated, each of them looking at the scene that just happened in front of them in shock. Was what had just happened real? The 8 of them looked at Long Ao at the same time, each of them in disbelief. He attacked without any warning. Otherwise, this person would not have been struck for no reason. The 8 of them clearly knew that Long Ao's strength was still very strong. Otherwise, even if he was careless, he would not be able to kill a white-grade great emperor martial artist with a single slash. The 8 of them knew very well how big the gap between purple-grade great emperor and white-grade great emperor was. The 8 of them retreated at the same time, obviously a little fearful. The 8 of them who did not put Long Ao in their eyes earlier were a little frightened at this moment. Until now, The 8 of them still could not believe that the other party attacked without any warning and even killed a white-grade great emperor martial artist. Shaking his head in disdain, Longao said contemptuously, "I will not attack those who do not attack me. You guys better not provoke me. Otherwise, I will kill each of you with one slash." One slash, one slash. Longao's words were very domineering. If Longao had said this earlier, the 8 of them would have laughed madly in disdain. But now, none of them could laugh. Longao knew very well that if it was a normal battle, with his strength, it was impossible to kill a white-grade great emperor martial artist with one slash. Moreover, it was 1 against 9. It was even more impossible. They looked at each other coldly. Longao did not continue to talk nonsense. He turned around and walked to the nearest stone platform. With a stride, he directly entered the stone platform. It was still the same sentence. His purpose of entering the ancestral hall this time was to enter the stone platform to awaken his bloodline. There was no need for him to fight to the death with the 8 of them. It would not benefit anyone if he did so. Seeing that Longao had entered the stone platform, the 8 of them looked at each other. They could see the helplessness and fear in each other's eyes. No matter how strong the other party was, just the fact that he could kill a white-grade great emperor martial artist with one slash made them not dare to casually attack. What should they do? Without any suspense, the 8 of them split up to find the stone platforms and prepare to awaken their bloodline. As for dealing with Longao, the 8 of them had their own selfish motives. It would not be worth it if they lost their lives for the sake of their reputation. The entire ancestral hall was silent. The most unlucky one was the white-grade great emperor martial artist who was killed. He was the first unlucky one to stand out. Inside the stone platform, Longao's entire body sank into the stone platform. From the outside, it was impossible to see Longao and the other 8 figures. Long family ancestral hall's bloodline awakening was not done by entering the blood pool, but by entering the stone platform. The origin of the stone platforms was not simple. Legend had it that the 10 stone platforms were treasures left behind by the immemorial divine dragon. There was a strong aura inside that could enter the body of a disciple in an attempt to awaken their bloodline. Whether one could successfully awaken their bloodline or not depended on their own luck. Longao sat quietly on the stone platform. His entire body had entered a strange state. He was surrounded by a black airflow. Traces of the airflow entered his body and began to awaken his bloodline. If others were to see this, they would be shocked speechless. Under normal circumstances, when a disciple entered the stone platform, the person who awakened their bloodline the fastest would need a day. But Longao? He had just entered the stone platform, and it had not even been 3 minutes, but he had already successfully connected with the aura. If this was the case, Longao's second bloodline awakening was almost a certainty. Longao felt the bloodline in his body begin to boil. The dragon's roar continued to resound in his body. Roar after roar, the roar did not stop. Was this the so-called second bloodline awakening? Longao was very clear in his heart that his previous bloodline awakening was only on the surface. The current bloodline awakening was the real bloodline awakening. As for how much his innate divine ability could be upgraded, it would depend on his own luck. Golden Divine Dragon Body. Other than awakening his bloodline and improving his innate divine ability, Longao knew that the most important goal was to use the bloodline awakening to reproduce the Golden Divine Dragon Body. Until now, he still did not know how to reproduce. Chapter 1052. Sky Martial Continent. Inside the Phoenix clan, the elegant cave was exceptionally quiet. Inside the third cave, Aoshue was alone, sitting quietly on a huge lotus. The entire lotus was constantly spitting out white mist. One look and one could tell that the lotus was a rare treasure. "Mother, you're here." Looking at the woman who came in, Aoshue slowly opened her eyes and walked down from the lotus. Luing nodded. Looking at her daughter in front of her, she seemed helpless. "Aoshue, Mother has let you down." "Mother, this is not your fault." Aoshue was very clear that with her mother's position in the Phoenix clan, she was unable to control everything. Otherwise, her mother and father would not have been separated back then. Don't blame your grandfather. As the patriarch of the Phoenix clan, he had no choice. Grandfather? Aoshue did not say anything, because from the start, she had never admitted that Lu Yi was her grandfather. Aoshue, how is the child in your stomach? Lu Ying did not continue asking, because she was very clear about her daughter's thoughts. What was the difference between her and Aoshue in the past? Speaking of the child, Aoshue was a little happy. Rubbing her stomach, Aoshue smiled and said, "Very good, mother. How is the Phoenix clan going to deal with me?" Aoshue was most concerned about this matter. If the Phoenix clan really wanted to deal with her child, then Aoshue had already decided, no matter what happened, she would swear to die together with her child. Aoshue, this matter has not been decided yet. I will do my best to fight for it. But no matter what happens, you have to promise mother, don't do anything stupid. No reply. Aoshue said curiously, "Mother, under normal circumstances, after 10 months of pregnancy, you should see the baby in about 5 months. But for me, after 8 months, there is still no movement." She nodded. Looking at Aoshue's stomach, Lu Ying was also a little curious. Just as Aoshue said, after 8 months, her daughter's stomach should have been visible, but what was the result? Aoshue was a human after all. She should be the same as the Phoenix race. Aoshue, this matter is a little unusual. I will discuss it with your grandfather. Mother. Waving her hand, Lu Ying didn't give Aoshue any chance to speak. She turned around and left, as if she didn't want to dwell on this issue. Aoshue was the only one left in the cave. Longao, no matter what happens, I will protect our child. Clenching his fists tightly, Aoshue looked at the white lotus in front of him. According to his mother, this lotus was a supreme artifact and was extremely powerful. If he could sit on it and cultivate, his cultivation speed would increase by dozens of times. How terrifying would that be? White Lotus. Aoshue also knew that if he wanted to leave the Phoenix clan and see Longao again, he had to become stronger first. Otherwise, everything would be nonsense. Without the slightest hesitation, Aoshue sat back on the White Lotus and started to cultivate quietly. White gas flowed into Aoshue's body continuously. In just 8 months, Aoshue's abilities had increased tremendously. Now, he was already an illusionary divine martial artist. If news of this were to spread, no one would believe it. Martial Artists Alliance. When Longao entered the Martial Artists Alliance, Yuin didn't appear to meet him. Even when Longao left the Martial Artists Alliance, Yuin didn't choose to meet him. It wasn't that Yuin didn't want to see the person she loved, but she couldn't. Ever since Longao left the Martial Artists Alliance, Yuin could focus on her cultivation. This was because the Alliance chief had promised her that as long as she could break through to the Supreme Dao realm, she could be with Longao forever. By then, even her master wouldn't have the right to interfere. Aquamoon Heavenly Abode. After receiving the inheritance of the Dark Realm, Yuin was the focus of the Martial Artists Alliance. Even after the death of the Martial Artists Alliance's Alliance chief, he still tried his best to cultivate Yuin. One could imagine how powerful Yuin was in the Martial Artists Alliance now. Aquamoon Heavenly Abode was a forbidden area of the Martial Artists Alliance. No one could enter without permission. Moreover, Tong Tiandi had already given Aquamoon Heavenly Abode to Tong Linger. Even the Alliance chief wouldn't be able to do it if Tong Linger didn't agree. However, Yuin and Ling were very close. Therefore, Ling was the happiest when Yuin entered Aquamoon Heavenly Abode to cultivate. Just like that, Yuin successfully entered Aquamoon Heavenly Abode to cultivate. In Aquamoon Heavenly Abode, looking at Yuin who was cultivating with all her might, Hades asked, "Alliance Chief, Yuin has already received the inheritance of the Dark Realm. I believe that once she refines it, she will definitely become a super expert. Are you really going to let Longao benefit?" Until now, Hades was still a little unwilling. From the beginning to the end, Hades didn't take Longao seriously. Of course, he didn't want the two to be together. With Yuyin's strength and status, she could definitely find a better one in the future. Tong Tiandi nodded and said, "Hades, I understand what you're thinking. However, I want to tell you that Longao is not simple. The best choice is for Yuin and Longao to be together." Alliance Chief, I still can't accept this. I understand. However, it won't be easy for Longao to obtain Yuin. In the future, it'll be up to him. Since the Alliance Chief had already said this, no matter how unwilling Hades was, he could only forcibly swallow it back down. No matter what, Tong Tiandi's status was still there. Alliance Chief, if Yuin can really refine the Dark Realm, should we take action? At the mention of this, Tong Tiandi's expression clearly changed. He said in a very serious tone, I've already asked the others about this. They haven't decided yet. The strength of the heavenly Tao is there for all to see. If we don't have full confidence, it's best not to act rashly. Otherwise, we'll be the ones to suffer. Hades also knew about the heavenly Tao's strength. If he said he wasn't afraid, he would be lying. After all, the heavenly Taos were the #1 expert of the martial heaven continent. Even if all the experts of the 10 Directions cauldrons worked together, they still wouldn't be a match for the heavenly Taos. This was the heavenly Taos. I'll continue to discuss this matter with them. However, Yuin is the key. So everything has to be done according to Yuin. First, let her refine the Dark Realm, understood? Hades nodded and said with some reluctance, I hope that Yuin will be fine when the time comes. As her master, I will. Hades didn't seem to want to continue speaking. Guilt was written all over his face. Tong Tiandi didn't say anything. After all, they had wronged Yuin. However, for everyone's benefit, for the 10 Directions cauldron's benefit, they could only choose to sacrifice Yuin. Let alone him, even if others were here, they would probably make the same choice. This was fate. Since fate had chosen you, you had to obey. Chapter 1053. Long Family. On the stone platform of the ancestral hall, Longao sat quietly and entered a mysterious state. After 2 days of breathing in and out, Longao realized that there was no change in his bloodline at all. Under normal circumstances, since his bloodline could undergo a second awakening, there would definitely be a drastic change. But the result? What exactly happened? Longao was very depressed. No matter what, he entered the ancestral hall this time in order to awaken his bloodline for the second time. But there was no change in the slightest. This was not a very painful thing. Did his mystique improve? At this moment, Longao was instantly petrified. He didn't know what had happened to him. Logically speaking, if his bloodline didn't change at all, his mystique wouldn't improve either. That was common sense, and everyone knew that. But the situation now was the opposite. His bloodline didn't change, but his mystique improved. It was unbelievable. Longao didn't care about his bloodline and focused on improving his mystique. With the improved mystique, Longao realized that not only was the time lock several times stronger, even when fighting against opponents of a higher level, the power of locking onto them had also increased several times. Longao, try to integrate your soul attack into your mystique. Hearing Xilinx's voice, Longao didn't hesitate and immediately began to integrate. Longao knew very well that he had to seize such a rare opportunity. Every minute wasted was a minute. Otherwise, if he missed the opportunity, he wouldn't even have the chance to regret it. Fusing a soul attack with his innate ability, it seemed impossible for him to die. But once the integration was successful, the power of his mystique would increase tremendously. Think about it. Once he used his mystique and locked onto his opponent, he could launch a soul attack when his opponent wasn't paying attention. That way, there might be unexpected results. But Longao didn't just integrate his soul attack. Since he was going to integrate, he had to do it fiercely. Not only did he integrate his soul attack into his mystique, but Longao also integrated the aura of heaven and earth and sword force into his mystique. It sounded simple, but it was extremely difficult to integrate. 3 days later, when the doors to the ancestral hall opened, not only did Patriarch Long Tian personally arrive, even Great Elder Long Heng appeared outside the ancestral hall. Many disciples, including Long Chun, surrounded the ancestral hall. Everyone was waiting for the 10 people, wanting to see how their awakening went. Many disciples were extremely surprised. They did not know why the Great Elder and Patriarch would appear. After all, the status of the 10 disciples was there. This kind of awakening happened every month, and it was not necessarily the case that the patriarch and great elder would come personally. Creak. The great doors of the ancestral hall opened and the 8 of them filed out. Before anyone could react, the 8 of them said impatiently, "Clan leader, great elder, Longao has killed Haolin." Haolin was the white-grade great emperor that Longao had killed in the ancestral hall. In order to awaken their bloodline, the 8 of them did not choose to leave 3 days earlier. Instead, they waited until the time for their bloodline to awaken was up before they left. Longao killed Haolin? Hearing this, everyone was shocked, because everyone knew what it meant for Longao to kill Haolin in the ancestral hall. He did not put the clan in his eyes at all. He did not put the ancestors of the clan in his eyes at all. Where's Longao? Longhang was not angry at all. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. The opportunity had come, especially since the patriarch was here. He wanted to see how the patriarch would help Longao escape. Speak of the devil. Longao walked out of the ancestral hall with Haolin's corpse in his hand. Seeing this situation, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This mother Kerr seemed to be a little too arrogant. No matter what, the patriarch and great elder were still here. Longao's actions were practically a provocation. Longao, do you know your crime? Longao sneered and did not answer. Men, take him down. Longhang waved his hand. Long Dition, who had been silent all this time, said, "Stop first." Longao, what happened? Longao obviously would not give Longhang any chance. He threw Haolin's corpse out and said, "Patriarch, I have something to say." Speak. Longhang also wanted to see how Longao was going to get himself out of this. Ignoring the gazes from all around, Longao took a deep breath and said slowly, "Patriarch, the ancestral hall is the most important place in the clan. We should be grateful for the opportunity to awaken our bloodline in the ancestral hall. However, this person kept finding trouble with me after entering the ancestral hall. I endured it again and again because I did not want to fight in the ancestral hall." Long Dition and Long Hang did not speak. The surrounding disciples did not dare to speak either. Everyone was looking at Longao and the corpse on the ground. This person asked me to kneel down and admit my mistake. He also did not allow me to awaken my bloodline on the stone platform. I was puzzled. What right does he have? Originally, I wanted to let this matter go. However, this person tried to kill me. I had no choice but to defend myself. I want to ask Patriarch, is what I did wrong? F***CK. If you say it like that, how could you be wrong? The surrounding people were all cursing in their hearts. They had seen shameless people before, but they had never seen someone as shameless as him. He was simply shameless to the extreme. That's right. Hearing that the patriarch was right, Long Hang was shocked. If Longao still managed to escape like this, then he would be speechless. Longao, you don't have to quibble here. No matter who is right or wrong, attacking in the ancestral hall and killing someone is a provocation to the clan. You can escape death, but you can't escape punishment. Everyone nodded in agreement because what the great elder said was not wrong at all. No matter who was right or wrong in this matter, Longao had still killed someone. If nothing happened like this, then where was the dignity of the family? Where was the law of the clan? Seeing that the patriarch did not speak, Long Hang sneered in his heart and continued, "Longao, according to what you said just now, I will be lenient. Men, chop off Longao's arms, cripple his cultivation, and expel him from the clan. From today onwards, no matter what happens, this person is not allowed to enter the Long family. Anyone who disobeys will be killed without mercy." Chopping off both arms, crippling his cultivation, and expelling him from the clan. This kind of punishment was worse than death. No one expected that the great elder would punish Longao so severely. After all, anyone with a discerning eye could see that the patriarch valued this person very much. The great elder's actions were obviously going against the patriarch. However, things had already come to this, and even the patriarch could not do anything. After all, Longao was the one who made the mistake first, and the patriarch could not openly protect him. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.